A man is strapping himself into a one-seat experimental pod above Cape Canaveral. His father, a former Apollo astronaut, slips a small Russian puzzle ring into his hand at the launch tower. The ring belonged to Yuri Gagarin. It is a quiet promise from a famous father to a less famous son. The son is 30, brilliant, full of theory, terrified, 10 minutes from making history with a slingshot maneuver around Earth. The launch goes well. It goes well until the pod hits an electromagnetic wave nobody on the ground knew existed. A wormhole opens in the upper atmosphere. The pod and the man inside it are gone. Somewhere on the far side of a galaxy he cannot find on any chart, the next 40 seconds happen all at once. An alien fighter pilot is dead from a glancing impact the human did not even see coming. The dead pilot's older brother, who happens to be the commander of a small fleet, is now swearing on an open transmission that he will spend the rest of his career hunting John Crichton across known space. The pod is being tractored into the docking bay of a living spaceship full of escaped prisoners. A 9-foot tattooed warrior is grabbing Crichton by the throat. A blue Delvian priestess is watching with polite alarm. A 2-foot amphibian deposed monarch is farting helium in the corner. A Sebastian special ops officer bred for combat is staring at him through the bars of a holding cell with the polite revulsion most people reserve for raccoons. Somewhere in the back of his neck, a translator microbe finishes its work. The room starts to make a different kind of sense. The room is still not friendly. This is Farscape. The Sci-Fi Channel ran it from 1999 to 2003. Cancelled at the end of Season 4 on the same week the Season 4 finale aired. Brought back 2 years later for a 4-hour wrap-up, the audience funded back into existence with a letter-writing campaign that does not happen anymore. 88 episodes, 4 cycles, 1 human lost so far from home there is no calendar for it, 1 Luxan warrior, 1 Delvian priestess, 1 Hynerian dominar, 1 Sebastian soldier, 1 pilot, 4-armed, bonded to the ship that carries them, 1 small yellow maintenance robot that will eventually figure out how to play the 1812 overture. What follows is going to take a few hours. Pour something, settle in, let's go. Goes well at first. Crichton's module hits the upper atmosphere and burns clean. His best friend DK is on the radio counting altitudes from Houston. His father Jack is watching from the gallery. They tell him to abort because an electromagnetic anomaly is approaching. The wave hits before he can respond. The wormhole opens. The wormhole eats him. The wormhole spits him out somewhere on the other side of a galaxy he cannot find on any chart. A small fleet of fighter craft streaks past him chasing something larger. One fighter clips Crichton's module and explodes against an asteroid. The pilot inside vaporizes. Crichton's pod gets dragged by some kind of tractor beam into the docking bay of the largest organic structure he has ever seen. The ship is alive. The walls breathe. Mouse-sized maintenance robots called DRDs swarm out and watch him through stalked eyes. A bearded man in red leather grabs Crichton by the throat the moment he climbs out and lifts him off his feet. Ka Dargo, 9 feet tall, Luxan warrior, tentacles, dyed black tattoos across the cheekbones, voice that sounds like a furnace door opening, imprisoned for the murder of his commanding officer, 8 cycles of Peacekeeper detention, 2 battle campaigns before that. He demands to know who Crichton is. Behind Dargo, a blue woman watches, Pa'u Zotojan, a Delvian priestess, bald, painted, calm in a way that makes the room calmer, imprisoned for anarchy on her homeworld. Beside her on a hovering chair, Dominar Rygel the 16th, 2 feet tall, amphibian, deposed monarch of 600 billion Hynerian subjects, betrayed by his cousin 130 cycles ago. He farts helium and the room rises an octave. Pilot, an unseen 4-armed creature, hangs symbiotically bonded into the ship's neural cortex. The ship's name is Moya. Moya is alive. Pilot speaks for her. They are not Crichton's hosts. They are escaped prisoners. They have just yanked the Peacekeeper control collar off Moya's belly and are trying to outrun a Peacekeeper command carrier piloted by a captain named Bialar Crace. Crace's younger brother Tauvo was in the fighter Crichton's pod just clipped. Tauvo is dead. Crace has just sworn over an open transmission that he will spend the rest of his career hunting Crichton across the galaxy. A DRD injects translator microbes into Crichton through the boot. The room snaps into English. He understands all of them. He also meets a 6th person, a Sebastian woman in black leather who jumps him in a holding cell, Officer Aeryn Sun, Peacekeeper Special Commando, bred for service the same way racehorses are bred for the track. She has never spent a day off duty in her life. She is also clearly the most competent fighter on Moya. The escapees catch her trying to free herself, lock her in the cell with Crichton, and tell her she's contaminated for spending 40 minutes near a human. The team is heading for a commerce planet for supplies. They drop down to barter. Crace's command carrier catches them on the surface. Crichton and Aeryn end up in handcuffs together at the spaceport. Crichton talks Dargo into rescuing them on the way out. Crichton tells Aeryn she can be more than what she was bred to be. Back on Moya, with Crace closing fast and the ship out of starburst energy, Crichton sketches on the deck floor a slingshot maneuver around the planet's gravity well. It is the exact maneuver his Farscape 1 module was built to test. Aeryn flies it manually. Moya outruns the carrier at the cost of nothing but a little flame. The crew makes it to the uncharted territories, the lawless quarter of the galaxy where Peacekeepers do not patrol. Aeryn is now in exile. The Peacekeepers consider her irreversibly contaminated. She has nowhere else to go. Dargo, alone with Crichton later, holds a sword to his throat and warns him not to threaten his freedom again. Aeryn warns him to choose his allies carefully if he wants to live out the year. Crichton sits alone with his module and records a tape for his father. He says there's life out here. Weird, amazing, psychotic life. He says he is going to find a way home. He will not. A hidden Peacekeeper paddock beacon on Moya's hull is broadcasting their location to every Peacekeeper in a quarter-light cycle. Pilot can't quiet it without a numbing agent called chlorium that has to be foraged on a planet. Moya has to land. Leviathans are not built to land. Moya has never landed in her life. They put her down in a swamp on a backwater agricultural world. Crichton, Dargo, and Aeryn split up to find chlorium. Crichton wanders into a barn and meets a teenage local boy named Fostro and his mother Linnea, an exobiologist studying for first contact protocols. Crichton becomes their first alien. He explains he's just looking for fertilizer. Linnea recognizes the chemical signature from her own pantry. He's holding a salt shaker full of chlorium. The local military descends. Dargo gets captured. Crichton talks Linnea into helping him stage a rescue. They dump a busload of soldiers, free Dargo, and run. Linnea tells her son this will be his special story to tell when he is older. Crichton kisses her goodbye on the cheek. Inside Moya, Rygel is the only crew member small enough to crawl through the ship's neural cortex and remove the beacon manually. Jean psychically links to Moya and absorbs as much of the surgical pain as her training allows. Rygel cuts. Moya screams in Jean's voice for several agonizing minutes. The beacon comes free. Aeryn returns. Moya lifts back out of the swamp into orbit. The cast learns Pilot can be hurt and that Rygel, when forced, is occasionally something other than a coward. Moya begins running an unexplained heat surge. Insects start crawling out of the walls. The crew finds clones of themselves wandering the corridors. Aeryn nearly dies of sebation heat delirium. The crew gets separated and increasingly paranoid. The intruders are an interdimensional swarm of insect aliens called the Drac. Their ruling monarch is using Moya as a temporary breeding chamber for her young. The temperature has to be high enough to gestate the eggs, which is high enough to kill Aeryn. The clones are temporary placeholders the Drac generate to keep humanoid passengers from interfering during gestation. Rygel, of all people, walks into the Drac nest alone, presents himself to the monarch as Dominar to Dominar, and negotiates. He promises the Drac Moya's full thermal capacity for a few more Arns if the Drac agree to leave the crew alive. The monarch accepts. A Peacekeeper marauder boards Moya in the middle of all this and gets killed by their own paranoid clone doubles. The Drac's eggs hatch. The swarm leaves. Aeryn lives. Rygel discovers he has a spine when he absolutely has to. A bandit gang called the Tavlex kidnap Rygel during a botched hostage exchange. The Tavlex fight using gauntlet weapons that inject stimulants directly into the wearer's bloodstream. The longer you wear it, the stronger you get, and the more violently insane you become. Dargo accidentally seizes a discarded gauntlet on his way through the cargo bay, puts it on, and instantly enters Luxon hyper rage with chemical assistance. He throws the team across the room. Jean rigs a sleep mist trap and shuts him down before he kills anyone. Crichton has to wear the gauntlet himself to extract Rygel from the Tavlek camp. He is not built for it. He nearly tears himself apart. He bluffs the Tavlek leader Bekesh by showing the empty stimulant chamber on the gauntlet and explaining Rygel is worthless and contagious. Bekesh, exhausted by the lie of his own life, lets Rygel go. Rygel coughed up the artifact Crystal Moya needed by then anyway. Jean briefly gets through to the Tavlek's teenage apprentice and shows him another way to live. He returns to the gauntlet at the end of the episode. Some kids choose the path the gauntlet offers because the path the gauntlet offers is the only one they know. Dargo brings 2 Elonic survivors aboard from a drifting wreckage, an old male scientist named Varel and an elegant woman named Matala. Crichton gets a static shock from Varel's experimental shuttle and starts experiencing the next 2 minutes of his own life out of order, repeatedly in flashes. In each loop, he sees a slightly different version of the next 2 minutes. In several of them, Matala kills Dargo and Varel. In one, she kills Crichton. In another, she destroys Moya. He cannot tell anyone because they all think he's losing it from the head injury. Dargo is openly attracted to Matala and refuses to listen. Matala turns out to be a Scorvian, a species at war with Elanics, surgically altered. She is here to steal a quantum singularity Varel has been trying to convert into a weapon. Crichton finally times the right loop. He gets Dargo to confront Matala in the right room. Matala stabs Varel, but Varel hangs on long enough to remote collapse the shuttle's containment field. Matala and the disguised Scorvian pickup vessel both implode in the failing singularity. Crichton has prophecy now, or had it for an episode. The vibes will return at irregular intervals for the rest of the show. A planet called Sykar, where everyone is happy all the time. The fields are full of laborers harvesting a crop called Tanot root and singing while they harvest. The town is full of laborers drinking and dancing while they rest. The priestess Volmai is loved by everyone. Dargo, briefly catatonically happy, decides he's going to stay. The catch is, the Tanit root is laced with a compliance drug. The laborers are slaves who don't know they are slaves. Volmai is in on it. Volmai is also a slave to the off-world syndicate she works for. The crop is being shipped to the Peacekeepers, who use it as fuel for Chak and oil weapons. Rygel eats the Tanit root, and his Hynerian biology turns the drug into a volatile compound. His urine, briefly, becomes literally explosive. Crichton uses this to break the priestess by threatening to set her town on fire from inside Rygel's bladder. Dargo, sober again at the end, tells Jean he isn't sure he was meant for happiness. Jean tells him there are no guarantees about who anyone was meant to be. The conversation will repeat itself in different forms across all 4 seasons. Moya drifts past the Zelbinian, the most feared peacekeeper warship of the last century, ransacked and derelict. The team boards. There is one survivor, a young female peacekeeper tech named Jelena Renayes, hiding from a salvage species called the Sheyangs, who killed the rest of her unit 2 days ago. Aeryn served on the same command carrier as Jelena years ago. Aeryn doesn't know her well. Aeryn knows her well enough. Crichton finds Jelena. Crichton talks her down. Crichton becomes the first non-peacekeeper she has ever held a conversation with. They start working on the Zelbinians' defense screen together. The Sheyangs return. Dargo bluffs the Sheyangs over comm as a Luxan warrior with a full squad behind him. Sheyangs fear Luxans. Jean whispers prompts off camera. Jelena installs a copy of the defense screen on Moya before they leave. Crichton kisses Jelena in the engineering bay. Aeryn walks in. Aeryn does not say anything. Aeryn turns and leaves. Aeryn finds an excuse to be elsewhere for the rest of the cleanup. Later, Crichton goes to her in a quiet corridor. He apologizes without quite knowing what for. He asks if she's never felt a real connection with someone. She says yes, once, briefly. She lost him. She tells Crichton he does not get to assume she has feelings about anything just because she does. Then, surprising him, she tells him to imagine flying home through his front door one day and finding his father, his sister, every friend he has, lying in the living room dead. Tells him that is what her life is now. Tells him the contamination charge is a death sentence on her own people if she's ever caught. Tells him she is alone in a way he is not yet able to imagine. He shuts up. Jelena stays on the Zelbinian to be picked up by her people. Crichton kisses her goodbye in the hangar. Aeryn watches from across the bay, unreadable. A psychic predator named Maldus on a commerce planet pulls Crichton and Kreus into a shared mental dimension and forces them to fight each other to death. Maldus feeds on hatred. The fight is supposed to feed him for cycles. Crichton refuses to kill Kreus. Crichton tries to talk to him. Crichton learns Kreus and his brother were forcibly conscripted into the Peacekeepers as boys, ripped from a farming family, that the brother was killed in the line of duty Crichton accidentally fired into. Crichton tells Kreus it was an accident. Kreus doesn't care. Jean, on Moya, is the only one with a chance of pulling Crichton out. She has to do it by accessing her own dark side, the murderous priestess she spent decades suppressing through Delvian meditation. Before she was a priestess, she joined her lover Batal in unity and killed him from the inside for what he had done to Delvia. She rebuilt herself out of remorse for 30 cycles. She just unfastened all of it. Jean wins. Maldus disperses into nothing. Jean emerges shaken. She tells Crichton later, alone, that the dark version of her is back inside her now and she does not know how to put her away again. Meanwhile, Crais ignores a recall order from Peacekeeper High Command. His Lieutenant Teague is sent in to relieve him of command and send him home for psychiatric evaluation. He stands and snaps her neck with his hands inside his own quarters. He buries her record in the carrier's logs. He is now officially a renegade. He is also still hunting Moya, more obsessively than before, off the books, on his own terms, against the orders of his own government. Crais is no longer chasing Crichton for orders. Crais is chasing him for himself. A goat-headed alien geneticist named Namtar offers the team navigation crystals to each of their respective homeworlds, charts that will let them go home, end the show. He just needs a DNA sample from each of them. He also wants something extra. He wants one of Pilot's arms. Pilot's arms regenerate. Pilot does not consent. Dargo, Jean, and Rygel pin Pilot down, while Dargo amputates the arm with his Qualta blade. Crichton and Aeryn arrive too late to stop them. Aeryn is appalled. Crichton calls them barbarians. Namtar gives them a single navigation crystal that contains too much data for Pilot to process and is functionally useless. The deal was a setup. Namtar wanted Pilot's tissue for his own research, not theirs. He injects Aeryn with concentrated Pilot DNA to graft her into a four-armed Sebastian Pilot hybrid. Crichton, with the help of Namtar's coerced lab assistant Cornata, develops an antidote and reverses the process. Pilot's arm grows back over the course of weeks. The team does not heal that fast. Dargo spends days alone in his quarters carving wood. At the end of the episode, he presents Pilot with a stringed Luxan instrument called a shilquen, hand-built. He plays Pilot a slow tune. It is the closest thing the cast has to an apology. Pilot accepts it. Dargo crawls into a maintenance access shaft to clear a Peacekeeper device the team missed. He kicks the wrong panel. The shaft vents. He gets blown into open space. Aeryn pulls him back in unconscious. Luxans can survive in vacuum for short periods. He survives. He wakes up delirious. He calls Jean by another woman's name, Lolan. He calls Rygel by the name of a child, Jothi. He talks to both like he's home, like he isn't on a ship. The crew gets the truth out of him in pieces over the following hours. Lolan was his wife, a Sebastian. Their marriage was forbidden in both societies. Jothi, their son, half Luxan and half Sebastian, is alive somewhere off-world. Lolan is dead. She was murdered in their kitchen. The murderer was her own brother Macton, a Peacekeeper officer who could not accept his sister marrying a Luxan. Macton framed Dargo for the killing and walked away clean. Dargo got Jothi out into hiding the same night and surrendered to the authorities. He has been in prison for 8 cycles. Macton is still alive. Macton is still Peacekeeper. Dargo has been waiting 8 cycles to find him. Meanwhile, Pilot detects something else. The catalyst the Peacekeepers injected into Moya during her capture, the one Dargo broke a sample of in the pilot, has interacted with Moya's biology. Moya is pregnant. Leviathans don't normally breed in captivity. Moya is going to have a child. Aeryn sits with Dargo at the end of the episode and quietly promises she will never tell anyone about Jothi. She knows what Peacekeepers do to half-Sebastian children. A planet called Dambada generates regular solar flares that, in theory, could provide the energy conditions for a stable wormhole. Crichton has been running solo flights in his module, trying to recreate the wormhole that brought him here. With Aeryn co-piloting, he hits a perfect approach. The wormhole opens. He stares into it. He pulls out. He cannot bring himself to fly through. He doesn't trust the door yet. The module gets damaged on the way out. They land on Dambada to look for a mechanic. The mechanic is an oil-stained alien named Furlow, who has never seen wormhole tech in her life and immediately wants to know everything. Crichton trades her his recordings of his approach in exchange for repairs and parts. Furlow promises she'll see him again. While they wait on the planet, 2 Vorkarian blood trackers named Rorf and Rorg arrive to claim the Peacekeeper bounty on Moya's crew. The Vorkarians do not know Crichton himself is on the wanted beacon. He poses as a fellow tracker. Aeryn finds the wanted beacon and learns Cress has personally embedded an offer of amnesty in it specifically for her. 5 seconds. Walk away. Reinstated. Honor restored. She listens. She does not respond. She tells Crichton, on the way out, that the offer was a death sentence dressed in a uniform. Crais would have killed her on sight. The Vorkarians leave on their own. Furlow leaves with copies of Crichton's data. Crichton's first wormhole experiment is now archived in someone else's files for the first time. A colony of Delvian priests on a hidden planet calls Jean in for what looks like a routine spiritual reunion. She has not been near other Delvians in years. years. The colony is led by Pau Ta-Lin, a level 8 priest. They want what John has, a discipline over the darkness that lives underneath her training, a darkness she has spent 30 cycles holding down. The catch is that Ta-Lin does not actually want spiritual training. Ta-Lin wants Jean's dark side, the unfastened, murderous version of Jean that runs underneath the priestess. Ta-Lin plans to stage a violent coup against the Peacekeeper collaborating government on Delvia. She lures Jean into a Delvian mind meld called Unity and rips Jean's controlled darkness out of her, robbing Jean of the meditation that has held her together for 30 cycles. The team is meanwhile psychically attacked by lesser priests who use illusions to keep them out. Crichton sees a hallucination of his Earth fiancé Alex, an old wound he has been carrying for years. He rejects the illusion. He volunteers himself to John to do Unity directly. He tells her she can show him the worst of her if it gives her back her control. The Unity works. Crichton later compares it to 10 years of great sex compressed into 30 seconds. John absorbs back enough of Crichton's stable, untrained mind to anchor herself. She emerges in the same encounter as a Pau of the 10th level. She no longer feels worthy of the title. She leaves her vestments on Ta-Lin's planet and walks back to Moya in plain clothes. Aeryn is teaching Crichton how to fly Moya's transport pods. He's bad at it. They get caught mid-lesson in a Xenoton Magnadrift fishing net called the Flax, an invisible mesh that drains every electronic system on contact. The pod goes dead. The pod runs out of air. They have one helmet between two suits. Aeryn pulls out two Sebacean cocktails called the Kill Shot and the Nerve Shot. The Kill Shot stops vital signs cold. The Nerve Shot brings them back. The plan is for Crichton to take the Kill Shot, since his helmet is the broken one, and he's the one who can't survive the weight. Aeryn will revive him with the Nerve Shot when help arrives. Crichton tries to teach her CPR in case her hand shakes when she has to bring him back. He is, briefly, clinically dead in her arms. They almost suffocate together in a metal box. Dargo arrives with Stans, the Xenoton pirate who set the Flax. Dargo cuts them out. Stans turns out to be a member of his species, considered, of his species, quite beautiful. Stans proposes marriage to Dargo on the spot. Dargo declines. In the cargo pod waiting for Dargo, Aeryn and Crichton, freshly resuscitated, briefly snap. They make out fast. They start to peel uniforms. Dargo walks in. The look on Dargo's face is one of the funniest single moments of Season 1. Aeryn, afterward, returns to her cabin alone. Aeryn does not talk about it. Aeryn pretends it did not happen. Crichton tries to bring it up later. She walks past him. The cast adds an unspoken thing to its list. Crichton storms off Moya in his module after one fight too many. Moya's pregnancy is making her unstable. She has an emergency contraction and starbursts before he can get back. The crew loses him. 3 months later, they find him on a low-tech planet called Aquara, suntanned, bearded, half-going native, in a complicated relationship with a local woman named Lishala. He is also stranded. His module is out of fuel. The locals worship a god whose statue looks suspiciously like Rygel. Rygel, dragged down to the planet by Diargo, is recognized by the locals as the Masada, the prophesied messiah of their ancestors. He briefly enjoys being worshipped. Then he reads the local sacred text in ancient Hynerian, learns the Aquarans are an abandoned Hynerian colony forgotten by his ancestor Rygel X, and learns the local priestesses have been deliberately keeping the population technologically primitive for 2 centuries to maintain power. Rygel does the right thing for once. He tells them, he frees them, he gives them their dignity back. He leaves with a goodbye gift of dried meat. Crichton apologizes to the team for storming off. He goes back to work on the module. Moya collides during Starburst with a Nebari ship transporting 2 prisoners. The Nebari are a totalitarian culture that uses mental cleansing as a punishment. The first prisoner is a young Nebari thief named Chiana, gray-skinned, runaway, scheduled for cleansing because she stole food and slept with strangers and refused to fit. The second prisoner is a Sebacean man named Celto Durka. Rygel takes one look and freezes. Durka is the captain of the Zelbinian who tortured Rygel personally over 100 cycles ago. The Nebari claim Durka has been mentally cleansed and is no longer dangerous. Rygel does not believe them. Rygel is right. The cleansing fails. Durka resurfaces as himself the moment he hits adrenaline. He kills the Nebari handler Salis, takes Moya hostage, plans to use her to escape Nebari Nabari authority and start over. Chiana and Crichton work together to stop him. Chiana is a survivor, a thief, a born manipulator, and surprisingly kind under all of it. They blow Durka out an airlock together. The Nabari ship is closing in. The team has to vote on whether to leave Chiana behind or take her on. Crichton vouches. The team agrees on probation. Chiana stays. The cast is now 6. A wormhole opens directly in front of Moya. Through it, a small blue and green planet, Earth. Crichton flies through alone in his module. He crashes on the Australian coast. He is captured by the Australian Defence Force. He is brought to a research facility. He is interrogated. He sees his father. His father is older. His father is alive. His father hugs him in front of a panel of officers, and Crichton breaks for the first time on the show. The crew follows through the wormhole hours later. They land. The Australian government is not prepared. Rygel is sedated and dissected on a steel table. Dargo is taken away in a truck. The wormhole knowledge and the alien crew are now classified American assets. Crichton, hiding in a safe house with Aeryn, kisses her. She kisses him back. They sleep together that night. They both know it's been coming since the Flax. They do not pretend otherwise. The next morning, Crichton notices a magazine on a shelf. The date is wrong. The newspaper outside the door is dated incorrectly. The men who arrested him follow him in patterns he has read before. He starts running through buildings. He kicks open the wrong door. Behind it is empty white energy. The entire planet is fake. It is a memory simulation built by a species called the Ancients, designed by his own subconscious, populated by every face he can remember. They wanted to know how humans would react to alien refugees. They picked Crichton's brain to draw the simulation because he was at hand. Crichton learns Earth's response to alien arrival was to dissect them. The lead Ancient has been wearing Crichton's father Jack's face the entire episode. The Ancient drops the disguise. He shows Crichton his real form. He returns Yuri Gagarin's puzzle ring. He thanks Crichton for the truth. He tells Crichton they may meet again. What the Ancients don't tell him on their way out is that they have planted something inside his head. Wormhole knowledge, equations, hidden under his subconscious, sealed. They chose Crichton specifically because they trust him not to use it as a weapon. The seal will open in pieces over the next 3 seasons. This will become the entire rest of the show. Moya enters a starburst with damage from the previous episode and gets stuck mid-jump. The ship splits into 4 parallel dimension copies of herself, all coexisting in the same space, each one with a different sensory distortion. Red Moya distorts vision into static smears. Blue Moya makes every sound deafening. Yellow Moya makes everyone laugh uncontrollably. Original Moya is fine, but the other 3 are bleeding into her. The crew is scattered across all 4. Crichton can move between them by jumping the right ducks at the right moments. While he's bouncing between Moyas trying to coordinate a synchronized full-thrust escape from the starburst rift, he encounters something nobody expected: a dimensional creature carving prime numbers into Moya's hull. The creature is trying to communicate. It is repairing the rift. Crichton works out the prime number language. The creature tells him that if they try to reverse the starburst, they will tear the rift permanently and lose all 4 Moyas. They have to push forward together at the same instant. They do. The 4 Moyas slam through. Moya comes out the other side whole. Pilot collapses. The team realizes they almost lost her trying to save themselves. The team also realizes Moya has been hiding the gestation symptoms from them for weeks because she was afraid they would leave her over them. Pilot tells them this. Pilot apologizes. The team apologizes back. A Peacekeeper Special Ops Marauder boards Moya, looking for refuge. The squad is led by Captain Larak, a Black Ops officer accompanied by 3 commandos, including a young female named Hassan and a young male named Thon. They are carrying a sealed cargo container. The crew pretends to be a Peacekeeper science detail experimenting on Leviathan mastery. They lock Dargo and John in a cell to sell the cover. Crichton wears Larak's face on confidence alone. The container holds an intelligent virus, a body-jumping consciousness that occupies one host at a time and is functionally smarter than the Peacekeepers carrying it. Chiana and Rygel open the crate while no one is watching because they are themselves. The virus gets out. It jumps from Thon to Crichton to Dargo to Hassan and back. The team has no way to tell who is currently it. The episode is paranoid. The virus pretends to be Crichton, then pretends to be Larak, then pretends to be Dargo. Aeryn gets stabbed in the gut by the virus-controlled Larak, who then runs for his Marauder. Crichton triggers a starburst fuel ignition that detonates the Marauder on the way out, killing Larak and the virus with him. Aeryn lives, but the wound is bad. The Larak squad's mission orders, recovered from the Marauder's logs, point at a single coordinate in deep space, a Peacekeeper Gamek base. Top secret. Aeryn doesn't recognize the project. The team has another problem now. Aeryn is dying. Aeryn's wound pierced her peripheral nerve. Sebaceans cannot regenerate it. Without an an implant of replacement tissue grown from a compatible donor, she will die in 50 yarns. The team's only chance is the secret Peacekeeper Gammak base they decoded from Larek's logs. The base does Sebacean tissue work. The base also has guards. Crichton and Chiana infiltrate the base, posing as Larek and a contracted concubine. The Larek ident chip works through retina and DNA verification because Larek's biometrics were on file in this network. They get inside. Inside is Jelena, the Peacekeeper tech from the Zelbinian, the woman Crichton kissed in Episode 7. She has been transferred from Krace's command carrier to this new Gammak base. She still loves him. She helps. She synthesizes a sample of peripheral tissue and tells Crichton to run. On the way out, Crichton walks past a man he does not recognize. Tall, black leather cooling suit, inhuman face like burned plastic, coolant rod inserted directly through the skin into the brainstem. The man stops. The man looks at him. The man tells the guards to seize him. The man's name is Scorpius, half Sebacean, half Scaran. The Sebaceans and Scarans have been at war on the edge of Peacekeeper space for generations. He was bred from a Scaran rape of a Sebacean civilian on a remote colony. His Scaran biology runs hot enough to fry his Sebacean half. His suit cools him. His eyes can read energy signatures, which means he can tell when someone is lying just by looking at them. Scorpius is the project lead of the Gammak base. The Gammak base is a Peacekeeper wormhole research facility. Scorpius, alone among Peacekeeper Command, has been chasing the wormhole knowledge for cycles. The reason? It is the only weapon that might let him kill enough Scarans to wipe his own father's species off the map. He puts Crichton in the Aurora chair, the Peacekeeper memory extraction device. The chair pulls images straight out of Crichton's brain and projects them on a screen. It also fries the brains of the wearer. Crichton's cellmate is a Stykera priest in a metal mask, theatrically insane from too many sessions, who calls himself Stark. Stark has been in this base for cycles. Stark and Crichton talk through the bars. Stark watches Scorpius pull memories of the ancients out of Crichton's head. Stark watches Scorpius lock onto the wormhole equations buried in Crichton's unconscious. Crichton is now the most valuable single prisoner in this region of the galaxy. Krass arrives at the Gammak base. He has tracked Scorpius's signal. He wants Crichton personally. Scorpius offers Crichton to him, but only after Scorpius is done extracting wormholes. Krace cannot argue. Krace is officially still under Peacekeeper authority, and Scorpius outranks him. Jelena, working unseen on the Aurora chair during a maintenance pass, plants a fabricated memory in Crichton's playback queue. The fake memory shows Krace offering Crichton the wormhole tech in exchange for sparing his life. Scorpius extracts it. Scorpius does not believe Krace's denial. Scorpius puts Krace in the chair himself. Krace's memories show what he actually has been hiding. Krace murdered his own First Lieutenant Teague with his bare hands in Episode 8. Krace ignored a recall order. Krace is officially a renegade. Scorpius declares Krace irreversibly contaminated and seizes the command carrier from him. Krace is removed from his own command, shipped to a holding cell. Aeryn, recovered enough by Galena's tissue sample to walk, infiltrates the base with Dargo and John. They free Crichton. They free Stark. Stark, freed for the first time in cycles, slips away across the moon's surface and disappears. He will be back. Jelena, who has switched sides for Crichton's sake, takes a Peacekeeper blast meant for him while leading them out of a corridor. She dies in Crichton's arms in Moya's medbay. She tells him in another life she would have loved him forever. He kisses her one last time. She does not get an old age. This is the show's first real death of someone Crichton genuinely cared for. Up to this point, the deaths around him have been antagonists, strangers, tragedies at distance. Jelena is the first person whose name he says out loud while she dies. The look on his face afterwards stays in the cast's vocabulary. Aeryn sees it. Aeryn understands it. Aeryn is not yet ready to admit what she understands about it. Meanwhile, on Moya, the pregnancy has finished. Pilot tells the team that the contraceptive shield Dargo broke in the pilot when it was contaminated by Peacekeeper material has produced something neither species expected. Moya gives birth to a hybrid Leviathan Peacekeeper gunship the size of a small cruiser, weapons bonded into the hull, capable of growth, with a personality of his own. The crew has a baby. The baby has a cannon. Moya hides in an asteroid field, while Krace's command carrier, with Scorpius aboard undermining him by the Arn, sweeps the sector for them. The team responds to a distress signal from a hollow asteroid. Inside Inside, they find a young calcivore alien named Mali. Calcivores eat bone. Mali has been hunted for cycles by a creature she calls the Monster. The Monster turns out to be Barney, a sentient plant scientist who runs a botanical research outpost in the asteroid. Barney has been killing Mali's family generations to harvest their bones. Barney shrinks John to half size to study her plant biology. By the end of the episode, Barney gets cut in half by his own laser in the fight with Crichton, and Mali, starving, feeds on the corpse. The team rescues John and restores her. Scorpius's command carrier arrives. Scorpius personally walks into the asteroid afterward. He hugs Mali like a father. He invites her to join his Peacekeeper weapons program. He tells her he understands hunger. The smile Scorpius gives Mali, in his black cooling suit, is one of the more disturbing single images in Season 1. Aeryn, on Moya, learns Pilot has decided. Of all the crew members, Pilot wants Aeryn specifically to name the gunship Baby. Aeryn does not know what to do with that responsibility. She thinks about her father. Rygel announces he is defecting. He takes a transport pod and flies it directly to Scorpius's command carrier with an offer. He will deliver the Moya crew, including Crichton and the gunship Baby, in exchange for asylum and a return to Hyneria. Scorpius accepts. The crew is furious. Rygel is bluffing. Scorpius is also bluffing. Scorpius plans to execute Rygel after the trade. Rygel learns this. Rygel uses the bluff cover to sneak Crace, who is being held in a Peacekeeper detention cell on the carrier, with a price on his own head, off the ship and back to Moya. Crace, displaced and hunted, asks the team for asylum. He offers to bond to Talon the gunship as Talon's pilot. He tells Dargo that the Peacekeeper officer who actually killed Lolan and framed him was Macton, Lolan's own brother. Aeryn confirms it from her own Peacekeeper records. She has known the name for Arns and never said. Dargo accepts the asylum on those terms. Crichton and Dargo volunteer to fly a transport pod loaded with explosives into the Gammak base. The plan is to ignite the moon's oil-saturated surface, vaporize the base, and use the chaos as cover for Moya's escape. Aeryn flies cover in her prowler. Crace bonds to Talon the gunship and prepares to fly him for the first time as crew. Talon accepts the bond. The pod hits the base. The moon ignites. The base vaporizes. The deflection wave knocks Crichton and Dargo loose in their suits. Aeryn tries to swing the prowler around through a swarm of Peacekeeper escort fighters and cannot reach them. Craze, inside Talon, takes Talon into the asteroid field. Craze tells Aeryn over comm that Talon chose him as the bond pilot, that he will not turn the gunship over, that he will protect him. Talon agrees. Aeryn names the baby. She names him after her father. His name is Talon. Moya, refusing to leave her child, holds station while the carrier closes. Crichton, on a comm link from inside his frozen helmet, begs her to starburst. He tells her Talon will come back. He tells her Aeryn will be okay. He tells her she has to live. Moya starbursts. The season ends with Crichton and Dargo unconscious in spacesuits drifting in deep space. No ship coming. Aeryn alone in a prowler at low fuel. Talon flying into the asteroid field with Crace. The Peacekeeper command carrier, with Scorpius newly in command. Closing position. Cliffhanger. 8 months until season 2. The first season was supposed to be the entire show. The Sci-Fi Channel had a one-season order, an unproven Australian-American co-production, a budget half the size of contemporaneous Star Trek series, a lead actor nobody recognized in America, and a leather-clad blue priestess on the poster. Nobody at the network expected it to land. It landed. The audience came in slowly through the back half of the season. The fan culture started to organize. The chat board started cataloging every little setup the writers were planting. By the time Family Ties aired, the show was renewed for season 2, then 3, then 4, on the back of a viewership that nobody at the network had projected. What the audience was actually responding to, even if they would not have phrased it this way, is that Farscape was a show that took its own emotional logic seriously. When the lead said something hurt, the lead carried it for episodes. When a character died, they were dead. When a relationship moved, the next episode reflected that move. The show ran like a serialized novel a year before serialized prestige TV was a recognized genre. Season 2 was going to take that logic and run it harder. Welcome to the deep end. 8 months between seasons in real-world airing. 8 cycles worth of viewer obsession during the gap. By the time season 2 opened, the audience had been chewing on the cliffhanger long enough to have written their own resolutions in their heads. The show ignores all of them and writes a harder one. Aeryn pulled Crichton and Dargo's frozen suits out of deep space at the last possible moment. She did it because she made a deal. The Prowler's fuel cell was nearly dead. The Peacekeeper marauders were closing. Crace, on Talon, signaled her oxygen-rich asteroid coordinates over a private channel and offered her a trade. She helps him train Talon into accepting voice command without violence, and he gives her a place to land. The team is furious when they hear. Crichton, recovered, takes a transport pod over to Talon personally, walks past past Crace's drawn weapon and bluffs Crace into surrender by aiming a Tesla at Talon's neural cluster instead. Talon refuses to fly with Crace in cuffs. Talon is loyal to Crace now. Talon was bonded to Crace while the team was nearly suffocating in space. Talon extends a glowing neural interface from his console called the Hand of Friendship. Crace accepts it. Talon's mind is now linked into Crace's the same way Pilot is linked to Moya. Aeryn fights to remove the interface, and Crace physically knocks her down. Crace tells her she should leave. She returns to Moya for now. Talon starbursts away with Crace aboard. Moya starbursts in the opposite direction with Aeryn back on her decks. Scorpius, in his command carrier, loses both ships in the same minute and orders his tactical officer brought to him personally so he can, in his own words, educate him. Back on Moya, Jean has spent the 8-month gap between seasons in a state of half-religious, half-suicidal grief. She believed Crichton dead. She has been meditating without water. The team has to talk her back into eating. The cast is now scattered across 2 ships, a renegade former captain and a priestess who isn't entirely sure she is still herself. Dargo answers a distress call on a barren temple world and meets a dying Luxan named Nilam. She is an Orokin, a holy woman of the Luxan faith, the kind of priestess Luxans build temples around. She is in the final hours of her life. She offers Dargo the honor of guiding her into death through the ritual of passing, the highest sacred role a Luxan warrior can hold. Dargo accepts. Halfway into the ritual, Nilam, terrified of her own death, switches it to the ritual of renewal. She draws power not from her own body, but from Moya's. She emerges young, beautiful, restored, sexually awake, and instantly attached to Dargo. Moya begins disintegrating from the inside out. Pilot is starving. The walls are bleeding. Nilam realizes what she has done. Nilam, given the choice between her stolen youth and the death of an entire ship, lets Dargo guide her through the ritual of passing properly. She dies in his arms on the temple world. Moya, restored, lives. Dargo carries the loss home. Chiana receives a Nebari life disk signal that means her older brother Neri is dead. She steals Aeryn's prowler, flies to a royal cemetery planet she remembers from her teen years, and joins a cult of dropouts who jump off a 1,000-foot cliff into a sonic safety net to prove they're alive. The radiation in the caves is killing all of them young. The cult was started by kids who knew they were dying anyway. Chiana intends to take the jump. She intends to die on her own terms with her brother's voice in her ears. Crichton tries to stop her by sedating her. Aeryn lets her go. Aeryn understands grief in a way Crichton hasn't earned yet. Chiana jumps. The net catches her. The screaming descent for 15 seconds purges something out of her. She comes back to Moya quieter. The team buries the life disk on the cemetery world. Some grief you only earn by surviving. A diminutive conman alien named Traltix hitches a ride aboard Moya, offering to cloak the ship's electromagnetic signature so the Peacekeepers can't find them. The catch is that he feeds on light, and Moya, in his presence, generates pulsar light that amplifies every paranoid impulse in every crew member. The episode is the funniest in the entire series. Aeryn turns on Crichton. Dargo nearly chokes Rygel to death by force-feeding him crackers. Pilot tells Crichton he hates him. Jean bathes naked in a beam of pulsar light, experiencing what she calls a photogasm. Chiana hits on Dargo. Rygel hoards crackers under his bed. Crichton starts hallucinating Scorpius standing in every doorway and shoots at thin air. Crichton is the only one whose human eyes are weak enough to be unaffected by the light. He paints his face with Jean's blue puke as a light blocker, dresses himself in salvaged armor, and creeps through the cargo bay like a tacky superhero. He cuts the wires feeding Traltix, shoots him off the wall, and finishes him with a blade. Everyone restored sits at the dinner table afterward, unable to look each other in the eye. Pilot apologizes formally. Aeryn apologizes by punching Crichton lightly in the shoulder. Rygel does not apologize because he never apologizes. The team learns it can survive being its own enemy. Chiana finds an old recording in a dusty cargo box. She plays it. The recording shows a younger Aeryn standing in formation in a Peacekeeper detail, watching the previous female pilot of Moya being executed by armored troops. Aeryn is in the recording. Aeryn was on Moya before. Pilot, when he sees the recording, attacks Aeryn directly. He has been in agonizing pain since his bonding because his bonding was forced. Moya was sedated and a forced control collar was installed. Pilot was a young pilot of his species, eager to see the stars, who was bonded to Moya without her consent in exchange for a chance to leave home. Pilot has been hiding the pain from the team for 3 years. Aeryn, 3 cycles ago, was the security officer assigned to the project. Aeryn also informed on her own lover, Valorek, the Peacekeeper engineer who tried to sabotage the project. Valorek was executed. Pilot rips his neural bond from Moya's nervous system in a fit of grief. The ship begins to die around the team. Crichton and Aeryn talk Pilot down through Pilot's own viewport. Aeryn, alone in the chamber, kneels in front of Pilot and apologizes for the death of his predecessor. She also apologizes for Valorek. She tells Pilot she loved Valorek, and the love was the first thing in her life that did not feel like Peacekeeper assignment, and she still betrayed him because she was afraid of what loving him would cost her. Pilot listens. Pilot responds to Moya naturally for the first time. The ship's pain ends. 3 cycles of held suffering close out in a single conversation. Crichton looks at Aeryn afterward and tells her Valorek was right. She can be more than what she was bred to be. She tells him for the first time that she might be in love with him. Chiana buys a small painting from a vendor on a commerce station. The painting changes overnight. Each morning, it shows a different member of Moya's crew in a different lethal scenario. Chiana burns to death inside a freezer. Dargo gets impaled on a Prowler engine. John falls off a catwalk. Each prediction comes true within hours. Maldice is back. The psychic predator from episode 8 last season has reconstituted from his dispersal. He commissioned the painting through a coerced artist named Kaivan to feed off the crew's death slowly. Crichton lures Maldice into manifesting again, and Jean, accessing the dark part of herself she touched last season, beats him in a brawl inside the painting itself. Maldice disperses again. Jean tells Crichton afterward she has never been more afraid in her life, not of dying, of what she had to become to win. Moya's food runs out. Chiana takes the team to the corpse of an enormous space whale called a budong, hollow inside, where she used to mine before she met them. Inside is a calcivore predator called a Kidva and a manipulative miner named Bisog who runs the company store side of the operation. Jean, starving for animal protein, begins budding, the Delvian equivalent of producing seeds. The seeds are toxic to Moya. Moya begins suffocating. Aeryn has to keep Jean from blooming until the team can hunt and kill the Kidva and bring meat back. Crichton finishes the Kidva by trapping it in a set of bars. Chiana finishes Bisog by shooting the Budong's bloodstream into the pocket of cave he's standing in. Dargo, during the same episode, finally kisses Chiana for the first time. Not in lust, in apology. They have been circling each other for months. The kiss is brief. They both walk out of the same room without saying it again. The cast realizes Dargo and Chiana are now a couple, and they realize it before Dargo does. A flashback episode set during the early search for Crichton after the Season 1 cliffhanger, narrated by Jean to the rest of the crew. Jean, Chiana, and Rygel got separated from the team and went to a planet of lawyers called Litigara. Jean was arrested after being hit by a vehicle while crossing legally on the green light, then accused of murder when the stranger she was talking to died at her feet. Chiana and Rygel posed as Jean's defense team. They won the trial using a thing they called the light of truth, a torch that burns brighter the more the person it is pointed at is lying. They turned it on Ja Ruman, the head of the prosecuting law firm, in open court and watched him light up. Jean walked free. The episode is small. The episode is also, mostly, a love letter to Jean. The team gets through hard times by holding each other up. Chiana reminds Rygel he is more than a coward. Rygel reminds Chiana she is more than a survivor. Jean reminds them both they are family. A bird-headed alien race called the Halosians fires a beam at Moya that swaps the consciousnesses of every crew member. Crichton wakes up in Aeryn's body. Aeryn wakes up in Rygel's. Rygel wakes up in Crichton's. Dargo is in Pilot's body. Pilot is in Chiana's. Chiana is in Dargo's. The episode is comedy. Crichton, in Aeryn's body, examines his new chest in a moment of weak willpower. Rygel, in Crichton's body, has to relieve himself in the cargo bay because Hynerian biology and human plumbing don't match up. Pilot, in Chiana's body, says he feels exposed without enough arms. Aeryn, in Rygel's body, threatens to bite anyone who teases her. They eventually negotiate the Halosians into firing the beam again to swap them back. The second swap shuffles them again before settling everyone home. Pilot remarks afterward he feels more grateful for his own form than he has been in 300 cycles. A glowing dimensional energy ball boards Moya, scans Crichton, and produces 2 duplicate Crichtons before anyone can stop it. One Crichton is a primitive caveman version, hairy and snarling, and barely verbal. The other is a hyper-evolved future Crichton with a swollen head, no hair, and a calculating personality. Both have memories. The ball wants one of them returned for study. The future Crichton, sounding eminently rational, suggests the caveman version is the most expendable. The original Crichton refuses to make that choice. The future Crichton tries to feed the original Crichton to the ball instead, so he can replace him on the crew. The caveman version, watching, kills the future Crichton with a pipe, and walks into the ball voluntarily. Before he goes, in broken English, he says, "This is not his place." The original Crichton Lives. The episode is a small mediation on what kind of human someone is, and which version of themselves they end up choosing to be. The Empress Novia rules a Sebacean royal planet that uses a kiss as a DNA compatibility test. Anyone who kisses a registered royal Sebacean of opposite gender will be flagged compatible or incompatible by the bonded crystal in the royal's mouth. The royal succession requires the heir to produce a Sebacean DNA-compatible child within 3 solar days of the coronation, or the throne passes to the next in line. Princess Katrala, the legitimate heir, has been deliberately DNA poisoned by her brother Clavor. No Sebacean male on the planet is compatible with her anymore. Clavor, who is allied with a Scaran ambassador named Kargan, will inherit if she fails. Kargan's job is to use the inheritance to hand the kingdom over to Scaran control. Crichton, by an accident of human-Sebacean genetic similarity, is the only male alive who is compatible with Katrala. The Empress demands Crichton marry her daughter and become a stone process statue at her side for 80 cycles to safeguard the lineage and protect his own DNA from theft. Scorpius arrives midweek with a Peacekeeper escort and offers to take Crichton off Empress Novia's hands. The Empress hates Scorpius more than she hates the inconvenience of marrying her daughter to an alien. She refuses to release him. Crichton, choosing 80 cycles as a statue over a one-way trip to Scorpius, accepts the marriage. He says goodbye to Aeryn alone in his cell the night before. He tells her he loves her. He tells her this is the only way to keep the planet from collapsing into Scaran hands. She refuses to attend the wedding. Clavor sends 3 rounds of assassins. A Peacekeeper disruptor named Genevian Charto, embedded as Clavor's fiancée for half a cycle, secretly intervenes to save Crichton's life. She tells Crichton she is Peacekeeper's special directorate, that her job was to assassinate Clavor before he inherited, and that she now has a new job, which is keeping Crichton breathing. Claver and Kargan the Scaran chop Crichton's marble head off his statue body and dump it in an acid pit. Scorpius pulls the head out of the acid first. Genevian shoots Scorpius and takes the head from him, then reverses the statue process at the last possible moment. Crichton wakes up reassembled. He has a working pulse pistol named Winona on him. He uses it. Kargan the Scaran kills Clavor with a burst of heat projection when Clavor tries to back out of the deal in the final hour. Crichton catches up to Kargan at the acid pit, empties a clip into him, and dumps the body into the pit. He almost ends Scorpius the same way, hands on Scorpius's head over the same acid. He stops himself. He doesn't know why. The royal physicians explain afterward that the statue process would kill Crichton because his Sebacean DNA isn't quite the same shape as Katrala's. The counselor Tyno, who has secretly loved Katrala for cycles and is the closest thing to her real partner she has, volunteers to take the statue role for the 80 cycles instead. Katrala is already pregnant from her compatibility test with Crichton. The child will be raised by Tyno and Katrala as their own. Crichton sees his daughter exactly once before leaving. The infant is in a transport crib. She has his eyes. He tells her, knowing she will never remember the conversation, that her father loved her. He flies away knowing he will not see her grow up. Aeryn meets him on the docking bay back on Moya with the planet's kiss test. They take the test. The crystal flashes positive. They share the kiss. They walk away from each other afterward, as if it didn't happen. Neither of them says it didn't happen either. Meanwhile, on Moya, the entire arc, John is alone facing a creator god of Leviathans called Kahainu. He is materialized aboard the ship to formally decommission her for the crime of breeding the Peacekeeper hybrid talent. He says Moya is no longer Leviathan, that she has been corrupted, that her existence threatens the species. He intends to euthanize her by removing her life force. Jean, drawing on the Pa'u 10th level training she has not used in cycles, refuses. She tells Kahainu Moya is not a tool to be repaired by deletion. She tells him family does not abandon family because of a forced birth. Kahainu looks at her for a long time. Kahainu leaves. Moya lives. Jean is forever changed by having stared a god in the face and refused to let him win. The crew brings a small parasite hunting creature called a Vork onto Moya to clean out an infestation in the ship's lower cargo hold. The Vork is a friendly thing the size of a mid-sized dog with a single tooth row, awkward gait, and the bonded loyalty of a service animal. Rygel hates it from the moment it boards. A larger creature, also rumored to be in the same hold, starts stalking the crew through the ducts. The team hears scratching at night. The team assumes the larger creature is the parasite the Vork is supposed to hunt. The team hunts the Vork by mistake, thinking the larger creature is the friendly one. The Vork dies in Aeryn's arms in a corridor. The actual parasite, a shape-shifting consciousness that hides its real form behind whatever it has eaten, only reveals itself late in the episode by attacking Rygel in the cargo bay and taking his shape. It eats memories along with biology. It tries to eat John next. Aeryn and Crichton put rounds into the Rygel-shaped thing in a corridor. It bursts apart into a swarm of bugs. Crichton finishes the swarm with a coolant blast from a freezer line. Aeryn cries when she realizes what they did to the Vork. The Vork had a name. The Vork was trying to protect them. The Vork was the larger creature in the ducts the entire time. Nobody bothered to ask what its name was until they were burying her. Crichton continues to see Scorpius standing in the corner of every room at night, unprovoked, in dim light. Aeryn asks him what he's seeing. He tells her he doesn't know. He tells her he keeps waking up sweating with images of a face he should not be remembering. He tells her Scorpius is somehow in his head. Aeryn does not yet have a way to fix this. Aeryn does not yet know there is a chip there to find. She tells him she will help him figure it out. She does not realize it will take 7 episodes and her own death to do it. A Scarran agent embedded in a commerce planet captures Crichton between cargo runs and locks him into a sensory deprivation chamber. The Scarran standard interrogation method on Sebaceans is induced delusion. The chamber is not physical. The chamber is inside Crichton's own head. The Scarran feeds him a custom-built hallucination of fake Earth designed to break his mind through emotional whiplash. His friends are people from his actual life. Aeryn is his doctor at IASA. Dargo is a fellow astronaut training with him. Jean is the project psychiatrist. Rygel is the new head of NASA. His best friend DK is married to a co-worker. His sister Olivia comes to visit. His father Jack lectures him about his career. His mother, who died of cancer when he was 18, is alive again at his bedside, dying again, asking him to be there with her this time. The hallucination is more emotionally cruel than the Aurora chair. The Scarran's plan is to make Crichton crack and reveal the wormhole equations as a side effect of the breakdown. Halfway through the breakdown, a different Scorpius appears, not the polished torturer Crichton has been running from. A casual, almost playful version. He steps out of a photograph in the corner of a hospital room. He invites Crichton for a beer. He explains everything Crichton has been seeing. The Aurora chair did not work in episode 20. The torture damaged Crichton's brain enough that Scorpius implanted something else, a neural clone, a scaled-down copy of Scorpius's own personality, miniaturized into a chip the size of a thumbnail, surgically installed during the chair session, planted to extract the wormhole knowledge from Crichton's unconscious slowly over a period of cycles. The clone is dormant most of the time. The clone is also the only thing keeping the Scarran from breaking Crichton's mind, because the clone wants the wormhole knowledge to remain accessible, and a broken mind cannot host it. Crichton names the clone Harvey, after the Jimmy Stewart film about an invisible rabbit only Stewart's character can see. The name is a joke. The name sticks. Harvey accepts the name. Harvey will be a recurring character in Crichton's head for the rest of the show. Crichton kills the Scarran by stuffing an overloading pulse pistol into the creature's throat and detonating it. The chamber opens. He wakes up in a small room covered in his own sweat. Harvey, mid-emergence, makes him forget the entire conversation about the chip. Harvey tells him he is here to keep him safe. Crichton walks out of the chamber 3 solar days later, not knowing why his head feels heavier than it did when he walked in. He does not yet remember the chip exists. The audience does. The audience now knows what is in his skull. The next 2 seasons will be Crichton learning what they already learned in this episode. This is the moment the show stopped being a shows of the week space opera and became something else. Up to this episode, Farscape had been a sometimes funny, sometimes strange, always serial drama about an astronaut among aliens. From this episode forward, the show carries a hidden second protagonist inside the lead character's skull. Every conversation is a 3-way conversation. Every quiet moment is 2 voices, one of them whispering the wrong thing. The lead is haunted from inside. For the next 40-something episodes, every time Crichton looks tired, every time he laughs at the wrong line, every time Aeryn looks at him and pauses, The audience has to ask whether the man on screen is the man they know. The show has become a horror story disguised as a space adventure. It is going to be the best decision the writers ever made. Aeryn flies a routine long-range recon mission in her Prowler and is gone for one solar day. When her ship docks back in Moya's hangar, she has lived 165 cycles. Her hair is gray. Her hands are spotted. She has had 3 sons and a granddaughter on the planet she scouted. She has been waiting for Moya to come find her for 55 cycles, returning to the spot every cycle to check. The planet is locked inside a time bubble called a center halo. Time runs faster inside. A day in normal space is decades on the surface. She is wearing a locket on a chain. She refuses to show Crichton what is inside. Crichton goes after her in his module despite pilot's warnings. He gets stuck in the same bubble. He lives the 55 years with her on the surface. They build a small life on a quiet hill. They have sons together. They plant trees together. They fix things together. They grow old together. Aeryn dies of natural old age in his arms on the transport returning to Moya. She holds the locket. She does not tell him what is inside. After she is gone, Crichton opens the locket. Inside is a small photograph of him. She had loved him from the beginning and had carried his picture against her chest for 55 cycles without ever showing him. Moya, by the time he gets her back, is also caught at the edge of the same time bubble. Stark, who has returned to the show as an unexpected guest a few episodes early, joins minds with John to reach Crichton through the freeze. Moya executes a reverse starburst that snaps the bubble backward in time. Time resets to the moment just before Aeryn flies her recon mission. She volunteers to scout the mist again. None of it has happened yet. She does not remember any of it. The locket she is wearing is empty. The photo never existed. Stark and John are the only ones who remember. They never tell anyone. Stark, in the same conversation, informs Dargo that he has located Jothi. Jothi is being sold at a Peacekeeper-affiliated slave auction in days. The countdown to the heist begins. A Plocavian weapons dealer transport ship near Talon is destroyed by Talon's main cannon during what was supposed to be a peaceful trade negotiation. Krace's ship Talon is suddenly being treated as a war criminal. The Plocavians arrest Aeryn, Crichton, Dargo, Jean, and Stark and place them in separate interrogation chambers under judicial protocol. The interrogations are conducted Rashomon style. Each crew member is asked to recount what happened during the trade. Each crew member tells a slightly different self-serving version of the same scene. Aeryn remembers everyone agreeing to a peaceful resolution before the cannon fired. Dargo remembers Krace being suspicious. Jean remembers a moment of religious calm. Crichton remembers nervous laughter. Stark, whose Stykera mind perceives reality differently than the others, remembers a version that contradicts everything. The Plocavians, applying judicial logic, sentence the contradicting witness to death. Stark is found responsible by deductive elimination. He is dispersed into nothingness in front of the team. Stark is gone for the second time on the show. He does not come back this episode. The actual truth, which the team cannot prove because the truth requires a Leviathan's perspective and Leviathans don't testify in court, is that Talon fired on his own. He detected during a routine cargo scan that the Plocavian shipment was Novatrin gas, a chemical specifically engineered to kill Leviathans on contact. Talon was protecting his mother. Talon never told Krace what he had detected. Krace never knew. Krace ordered no fire. The cannon fired without command. Stark sacrificed himself to protect Talon. Stark knew what Talon had done and chose not to defend himself with the truth because the Plocavians would have demanded Talon's execution as a war reparation. He let himself be dispersed instead. Jean grieves Stark privately in her quarters that night. The cast does not know yet what she knows. The cast continues forward. A Nabari mind-cleansing officer in pearlescent armor named Varla boards Moya without warning to extract Chiana for compliance treatment back on Nabari Prime, escorting Aeryn and Rygel back already cleansed from a supply run. Varla then runs Jean and Dargo through the same chemical mind cleanse using inhaled drugs and post-hypnotic command codes. The 4 of them become compliant zombies in less than an ARN. They walk on command. They follow orders. They cannot disobey Varla. Varla tries to cleanse Crichton too. The Harvey neural clone in his brain, sensing a chemical attack on Crichton's neural pathways, counters the drug at the synaptic level by manipulating his own neurochemistry. Crichton's brain absorbs the cleanse but does not register the conditioning. Crichton stays himself. He pretends to be cleansed. He plays along until he can find the right moment to fight back. A second Nabari ship docks on Moya, carrying a single Nabari man named Milak, who has also been looking for Chiana. Milak takes Crichton aside in a quiet corridor. Milak is not a loyal Nabari officer. Milak is a member of a secret Nabari resistance that Chiana's older brother Neri leads. Neri is alive. He survived the mind-cleansing process Chiana had assumed killed him. He has been hiding in the uncharted territories, building a movement against the establishment. Milak explains the larger picture. The Nabari establishment, the totalitarian government of her homeworld, has been infecting the rest of the galaxy with a slow-acting biological weapon for cycles. The plan is to weaken every species across multiple star systems before the establishment moves into open conquest. Chiana herself is a carrier. She does not know it. Neri tested her on the way out. The contagion does not affect Nabari hosts. It will erupt in non-Nabari populations on a schedule the establishment controls. Chiana is offered a chance to go with Milak to find Neri. She wants to. She cannot. Tracking her would expose the resistance, and Neri's network is not yet ready to absorb a known operative. She watches Milak's ship leave alone. She stays on Moya. The team breaks the cleanse on Aeryn, Rygel, Dargo, and John, with combined biotechnology over the next 4 Arns. The team has just learned the galaxy has more than 2 superpowers fighting over it. The Peacekeepers, the Scarans, and the Nabari establishment are all racing toward a war that has not started yet, but has already chosen its battlefields. Stark, dispersed in episode 17 but apparently alive in some Stikera quantum sense, returns to Moya with stolen blueprints. He has cased a shadow depository, an interstellar bank used by criminals of every species to launder currency under privacy laws no government can violate. He believes the team can rob it, raise enough to outbid the auction price on the slave lot Dargo's son Jothi is being held in, and rescue him before delivery. The first heist works. The team poses as depositors, plants Rygel as a hidden Trojan horse statue covered in mud and frozen breath, and walks out with a container of currency from Scorpius's personal vault. Scorpius, who has been quietly running an account at the depository because he has been preparing for war with the Scarans for cycles, owns the largest balance on file. They take a fraction of it. The fraction turns out to be alive. Karak metallites, dormant insects that look like coins of gold currency until ambient heat triggers them. They wake up inside Moya's cargo bay and start eating the ship's hull from the inside. Moya nearly dies from infestation. The team has to set fire to a quarter of the corridors to kill the swarm. Pilot screams in agony for hours. Jean walks into Pilot's chamber and shares the burning pain with him by reaching into his neural cortex through her own hands. Scorpius, in retaliation, captures Jothi. He offers Crichton a trade. Jothi, alive and free, for Crichton himself. Dargo briefly considers giving Crichton up. Crichton sees it on his face. Crichton tells him later it would have been okay. Dargo tells him later it would not. Stark organizes a second heist with hired help. Bekesh, the reformed Tavlek from Season 1, Episode 4, Off the Gauntlet, struggling, paid in artifacts. Churak the Sheyang. Rorf the Vorkarian Wolf Tracker from Season 1, Episode 11, a small Xenoton pirate squad. The plan is to crash Scorpius's depository operation by force during the moment Scorpius is busy extracting wormhole knowledge from a captured Crichton. Talon arrives unannounced. Crace, who has been quietly tracking Moya's signal for cycles, brings Talon into the assault to provide fire support from above the bank. Together, the second team blows the depository sky high, while Scorpius is mid-extraction. Crichton is mid-Aurora chair when the building starts coming apart around them. Jothi is freed. Scorpius releases him as part of his own gambit. Jothi hugs his father in the docking bay. Neither of them speaks for a long time. Turak the Sheyang sacrifices himself by detonating the depository's generator. Rorf the Vorkarian is killed by guards inside the vault. Bekesh lives and gets paid in salvaged Peacekeeper goods. Crichton barely lives. The neural clone Harvey, jolted awake by Scorpius's mental incursion at the depository, is now overtaking him for hours at a time. He begs Dargo to kill him in his quarters that night. Dargo refuses. Dargo tells him there is going to be a way. The Season 2 finale. Crichton has spent the last 12 episodes with Scorpius's clone running in the back of his head. Harvey has been getting bolder. Crichton has been getting worse. He has held it together with humor and pulse pistols and a wormhole equation he barely understands. He cannot hold it together much longer. A diagnosin named Tokat, the surgical-grade species Crichton met during his brief reconstruction, agrees to perform brain surgery to remove the Scorpius neural chip from Crichton's skull. Tokat's clinic is a frozen hospital planet on the edge of inhabited space, run by a corrupt assistant named Grunchulk, who handles the patients while Tokat does the actual cutting. The team flies in. Aeryn flies cover from a prowler. Before the surgery, Harvey takes full control of Crichton's body for several hours. He acts almost normal. Aeryn doesn't notice in the morning. Right before the surgery, Crichton tells her he loves her. She says it back. Harvey Crichton bashes her head against the wall, knocking her unconscious. He detaches his module from the dock and takes to the air. Harvey hijacks the module and engages Aeryn's prowler in aerial combat over a frozen lake 15 clicks from the clinic. He smashes her prowler with the module's landing gear. He laughs while he does it. He has been Scorpius for so long, he is starting to enjoy what Scorpius enjoys. Aeryn ejects. The descent jets on her ejection seat fire automatically. The heat melts a hole in the ice on impact. The ejection harness, pinned by the module's own landing gear tire when it crashed down on her, will not release. Aeryn, conscious and unwounded, falls into the water trapped in the chair. Crichton, having reasserted himself for 1 full second by sheer panic, watches her go under. He watches the lake refreeze over her. He cannot get to her. The ice is too thick to break by the time the module lands. The funeral is held on the Diagnosan's planet outside the clinic. Dargo lays his Qualta blade across Aeryn's chest. Rygel removes his ancestral medallion and places it on her forehead. John performs the rites over her body. Crichton kisses her one last time. He cuts a lock of her hair and keeps it. He walks into surgery weeping. The team stands around her body in the snow for several seconds while the camera holds. The Diagnosan finds the chip during surgery. He removes it from Crichton's brainstem with surgical patience. He has not yet repaired Crichton's speech center, which the chip was attached to. Crichton is unable to form words. Crichton is, mid-procedure, fully conscious. Scorpius walks into the operating theater. He asphyxiates the Diagnosan by removing his breathing mask. Diagnosans cannot survive contact with airborne bacteria for more than a few seconds. Tokat collapses on the floor, motionless. Scorpius pockets the chip Tokat just removed from the table beside Crichton's exposed brain. He looks at it once. He looks at Crichton on the table. He says only one thing: live. He walks out of the operating room. Braca walks out behind him. They take a transport pod off the planet. The last shot of the season is Crichton on the table, alone, brain partly exposed, mouth full of his own blood, unable to scream because the speech center is offline. The woman he loves is dead and frozen in a lake. The chip he has been chasing is in his enemy's pocket. His enemy is alive and laughing in a corridor he cannot reach. End of Season 2. This is where Farscape stops being the kind of science fiction show you can describe to someone in a single sentence. The first season was a man getting lost. The second season was a man getting hunted. The third season is going to be a man getting taken apart, twinned, killed, married, widowed, and reassembled while his ship explodes around him. From this episode forward, the show stops worrying about whether the audience can follow it and starts trusting that the audience will. The cliffhanger going into Season 3 is the heaviest the show ever closed on. Crichton on a slab with his brain showing. Aeryn frozen at the bottom of a lake. Jeanne on the verge of a decision that will end her life. Scorpius walking out of the building with everything Crichton has been carrying inside his skull. The audience waits months. The audience comes back. Aeryn is dead. Crichton is on the table with his brain partly exposed. Tokat, the Diagnosan, has stitched his speech back together and stepped out of the room. Scorpius is gone with the chip. This is the position the show drops back into at the start of Season 3. There is no time skip. There is no soft landing. The medical bay of an off-world black market clinic is a charnel house, and the only people left standing are barely standing. Jeanne walks into the room where Aeryn's body is on a slab. Aeryn has been dead long enough that her skin has gone the wrong color. Delvian doctrine is explicit. You do not interfere in the transit of a soul that has already left. You do not pull a spirit back from the dark. To do so is heresy. To do so is to take that death into yourself. Jeanne does it anyway. She lays her hands on Aeryn. She enters unity, the Delvian deep meditative bond, and she pours her own life force across the gap. She finds Aeryn somewhere in the dark, and she walks her back. Aeryn's chest rises. Aeryn's eyes open. Aeryn does not understand at first what has happened. The price is invisible until later. Jeanne has weeks to live, maybe less. Stark, the Stykera priest who escorts the dying, takes the seat beside Crichton's open skull. He pulls his mask aside. He goes inside Crichton's head to fight the lingering Scorpius neural clone the chip left behind. Crichton wins the round. The clone retreats but does not vanish. It is a piece of Scorpius bedded in his cortex now, and it has opinions. Crichton sits up, able to talk. He is alive. Aeryn is alive. Jeanne is dying. a Scaran prisoner that Grunchulk had cryogenically stored in a side chamber for resale breaks loose. Reptilian, heat breathe, strong enough to crack a man in half with one hand. He kills Tokat in a side corridor before the team catches up to him. The team fights him through the rest of the clinic. They kill him, barely. Scorpius makes for a marauder. Krace and Talon run him down in open space and lance the marauder out of the sky. The fireball is broadcast on every Peacekeeper channel. Scorpius is reported dead. Scorpius is celebrated as a martyr. Scorpius is not dead. Scorpius is sitting on a different ship, his coolant rod hissing in its housing, watching the broadcast of his own funeral with mild interest. He has the chip. He has the wormhole research. He has the entire command carrier converted to a wormhole laboratory now. He has time. On Moya, Aeryn cannot fully accept that John has chosen to die so she can live. She walks into Crichton's quarters in the middle of the cycle and tells him she loves him. She also tells him she cannot be with him. Loss has rewired her. She does not want to lose anyone again, including herself, by loving him. This is the season's opening note. Everyone is alive at a price. Everyone is in a body that does not feel like it belongs to them anymore. A commerce station near the twin suns of Kel. The team is buying medical supplies. The station is hit by a fluctuating gravitational storm that should not exist there. The cause is a religious zealot named Borlik with a bonded artifact stuck physically to her own body. The artifact is amplifying a local weather phenomenon. She believes she is bringing about a holy reckoning. She is bringing the station down on top of an orphaned class of children. The team rescues the children. They get the artifact off Borlik. They get out before the docking ring tears. The actual collapse of the episode is back on Moya. Dargo finds out, mid-rescue, that Chiana and his son Jothi have been sleeping together. The wedding tattoos Dargo had drawn for his union with Chiana go on the floor. He throws them. He walks out without finishing the conversation. Jothi packs his things. He apologizes to his father through a translator window and asks for a transport pod. Dargo gives him one. Jothi goes. He flies away into the dark to live his own life and try to be a person and not the son of a Luxan general or the lover of a Nabari thief. Dargo loses a son and a fiancé in the same episode. Chiana loses both Luxans in her life in the same episode. Nobody on Moya sleeps that night. The second great death of the season is coming. Moya is exiting a wormhole when another ship comes through the same throat from the opposite direction at the same instant. The other ship is a different breed of Leviathan-class vessel, sleeker, harder, piloted by a four-armed alien pathfinder named Nayala. The two hulls do not just collide, they weld. They are physically merged at the corridor level. Walking through the seam, you can step out of Moya into another ship's hallway without noticing the transition. Both vessels will die unless one of them is detonated. Niyala explains this calmly. She is a scientist. Her crew has a plan. Trust the plan. Niyala is lying. Her plan involves destroying Moya, not her own ship. Her invisible engineer, a chameleon-skinned creature called a Kritago, is hunting the crew through the ducts and severing power conduits one by one to make sure Moya is the one that fails first. Inside the wormhole, Crichton starts to hallucinate. He sees flickering television transmission. He sees the Three Stooges. He sees an episode of an Earth sitcom. The math in his head tells him the wormhole at the bottom of this seam connects to a network of throats that includes Earth. He could go home. He could leave Moya welded to a stranger's ship and step through and be back in Florida by morning. He sits on the edge of the gap and stares at it. He doesn't go. The wormhole knowledge in his head is starting to consume him. It is no longer just numbers. It is a song. He can't stop humming. The Scorpius clone in his brain hums along. Crichton, in this scene, is the closest the show ever gets to showing the audience what is at stake inside his own head. He is not looking out at a wormhole. He is looking at a door he could walk through and sleep in his own bed tomorrow. He chooses the welded ship full of his bleeding family over the door. He chooses it without saying so out loud. He chooses it because he has already chosen these people. The team kills the Krito in a corridor ambush. They kill Neela when she tries to detonate Moya from her own bridge. The bomb she has rigged is still live, and it has to be triggered manually from inside the alien ship to drive the two vessels apart. Whoever pushes the button is not coming back. Crichton volunteers. Aeryn volunteers. They are arguing over which one of them gets to die first when Jean steps between them. She is already dying. The unity she gave Aeryn has used up most of what was left. She is at peace. She is wearing the same look she wore on the prison ship in episode 1. She has been ready for this for a long time. She walks through the welded corridor into the alien ship. She ignites the explosion. She is gone. The ships rip apart. The wormhole collapses behind them. Moya drifts into clean space, leaking atmosphere from 100 wounds. The crew gathers in the cargo bay. No one speaks. Stark sits on the deck with his mask in his lap and stares at the wall. He could not make the cross with her this time. He could not escort her where she went. She went alone. Hau Zoto Jean, level 10 Delvian priestess, the woman who looked at Crichton in episode 1 of the show and decided he was worth being kind to, the mother of the family that had grown up around her on Moya, is gone. The show kills its first lead. The audience now knows Farscape is willing. In the wake of Jean, the show is permanently smaller. There is a chair at the dinner table that nobody sits in. There is a bay where she used to bathe in pulsar light. There is a place at Pilot's console where she used to bring him tea. The show holds these absences. The show does not write around the loss. The cast carries it for the rest of Season 3. They carry it into Season 4. They carry it into Peacekeeper Wars. This is one of the things Farscape does that prestige drama would not be widely doing for another 6 years. It treats the death of a regular character as a permanent loss the show then has to live with. Most genre television in 2001 would have replaced John with a similar character within 4 episodes. Farscape replaced her with a hole. The hole stays open. A souvenir set of antique goggles tears time. Crichton, Aeryn, Dargo, Stark, and Jewel wake up inside a famous Peacekeeper historical battle. The one where Sub-Officer Dakin supposedly negotiated a peace treaty under fire and saved a monastery full of nurses and children. They are tourists who have fallen into a museum diorama, and the diorama has bullets in it. They try to play the original timeline through. Each tactic goes worse than the last. Dakin, the man whose courage the entire history of this piece was built on, dies during their intervention. The nurses bleed out trying to save him. A little girl named Cintrina, the symbol of the saved generation, is among the children they fail. The team gets out through the time tear. They look back through the goggles afterward and watch the nurses and the children get slaughtered in the timeline they leave behind. The memorial at the end of the episode, the marble plaque the team had seen on a monument earlier in the cycle, now commemorates a slaughter instead of a peace. The names of the dead are different. The children are not on the list of the saved. They are on the list of the lost. The team carries this back to Moya in silence. They tried, and they made history a tragedy. There is no fix. The monument stands. This is the episode that breaks Farscape's structure for the rest of the series. Crichton, Dargo, Chiana, and Jewel board a derelict leviathan called Rovu after a transport pod failure forces them to dock. Inside, the Peacekeeper Guard crew has been reduced to cannibal scavengers. They have been trapped on this ship for cycles. They have been eating each other. They have been eating the regenerating arms of their own captive pilot, hacking the limbs off, waiting for them to grow back, then hacking again. The pilot is alive in the lower deck and screaming. There is one remaining Peacekeeper prisoner aboard, a man called Karvok. He has a device. The device produces a bubble. Anyone caught in the bubble walks out as two of themselves. Not a copy, not a clone. Two equal originals, both real, both with continuous memory of being a single person up to the moment the field closed. Chiana gets twinned. The two Chianas turn on each other almost immediately. One of them ends up dead. The other escapes back to Moya. She is not sure which one she is. Neither would be sure. Crichton gets twinned. Both Crichtons survive. They walk out of the transport pod onto Moya at the same instant. They look at each other across the docking bay. They are wearing the same clothes. They are carrying the same gun. They have the same speech impediment after the brain surgery. They have the same Scorpius clone in their head. They both saw Aeryn dead. They both watched Jean die. They are both in love with the same woman. There is no test that can be run. There is no original. There is no real one and a fake. There are just two John Crichton. They diverge from this moment forward into different lives. The audience does not know what the show is doing yet. The show has just made one of its leads into two of its leads. It is going to keep both of them on screen for 15 episodes. Most shows would treat this as a temporary problem, a bottle plot. By the end of the hour, one of them is dead, the other is restored. Business as usual. Farscape does not do that. The show commits to the divergence. Both Crichtons are real. Both Crichtons get equal screen time. Both Crichtons have their own arcs. One of them will fall in love with Aeryn for half a season and die in her arms. The other will be there waiting when she comes back to Moya, and she will not be able to look at him because he is the same man who is also not her husband. This is the kind of bet that breaks shows. It does not break Farscape. The show plays the bet at full price and collects on every beat. The crew tries to figure out which Crichton is the real one. They collect blood, they collect hair, they scan retinas, they pull teeth, they run every test the medical bay can run. The results come back identical. The two Crichtons match on every reading. They match because they are equally real. The show is not playing a trick. There is no answer to find. The two Crichtons start dressing differently to help the rest of the crew tell them apart. They start wearing the difference like a uniform. They are still the same man. They are not the same man. Talon arrives. Crace brings him into the system at low power, recovered and bigger. He is no longer a baby battleship. He is a teenage one. He is moody. He is jealous. He still mostly listens to Crace. Aeryn says the obvious thing nobody wants to say. The crew has to split. The two Crichtons agree. One Crichton goes with Aeryn, Crais, Rygel, and Stark to Talon. One Crichton stays on Moya with Dargo, Chiana, Jewel, and Pilot. Each ship will live its own season. Aeryn corners the Talon Crichton in a corridor and asks him if he is the John she always knew. He says yes. She kisses him. She has been waiting since the medical bay in episode 1. She is not waiting anymore. The Talon Crichton and Aeryn will be together for the rest of season 3. The Moya Crichton, the other one, the one who is also John Crichton, watches Talon detach from Moya's docking ring and starburst away. He has lost Aeryn to himself. There is no clean way to feel about that. The Talon Crichton and Aeryn settle into a relationship aboard Talon. They are sharing quarters. They are sharing meals. They are happy in the way people are happy who have already lost everything once. Talon watches them. Talon is a battleship with the emotional regulation of a teenager, and his closest emotional bond is with Aeryn. He gets jealous. He nearly flies them all into a star. Then they get swallowed by a giant budong, a space whale thing, and Crais tricks Crichton into watching a fabricated tape of Aeryn and Crais together, designed to drive him off her. The three of them tear at each other inside the digestive tract while the ship slowly digests them. Standard Farscape problem. Meanwhile, aboard Moya, an energy parasite called a Talop Rider takes possession of Pilot. A second rider drops into Chiana. The Moya crew has to hunt the rider hosts by catching the wrong reflection in their eyes. Crichton, Dargo, and Jewel corner Chiana and free her. Then Crichton drives Talop out of Pilot through Moya's starburst chamber. The Peacekeepers send a retrieval squad after Talon. The squad lands. The squad commander is a woman named Aeryn Sun. Aeryn meets her mother for the first conscious time of her adult life. Aeryn tries to convince Aeryn to come home. Aeryn also tries to kill Aeryn's lover. Crais ends the episode by executing Aeryn himself in the rain. Crichton walks Aeryn away through the jungle while the shots are fired. Aeryn does not turn around. Aeryn does not weep for her mother. Aeryn has not had a mother since infancy. She holds the memory of the woman who told her she was a wanted child and walks back to the ship. This is the episode that turns the show's villain into the show's most morally complete character. Scorpius, alive aboard his command carrier with the wormhole chip in his hand, decides to negotiate instead of torture. He sits at a console and uses the chip's neural protocols to project himself into the residual Crichton subroutine still imprinted in the data. The Crichton in the chip is not the real Crichton. The Crichton in the chip is what Scorpius has been talking to from inside Crichton's head all season. Scorpius has come to bargain. Scorpius offers a memory. Scorpius offers his own life. The memory plays. Scorpius's mother was a Sebacean civilian woman named Rilani Jima Delos. The Scaran Empire wanted to engineer a hybrid race that combined Sebacean intelligence with Scaran heat resistance and physical power. They captured Sebacean women. They assigned Scaran males to impregnate them. A Scaran male was assigned to her. He raped Rilani for cycles inside a Scaran breeding facility. She loved her child anyway. Scorpius was born. The birth was difficult. The hybrid child killed her on the way out. Tauza will tell him later that it was his fault. He will believe her. A Scaran handler named Tauza took the child and ran him through a torture conditioning regime designed to teach a hybrid creature obedience. She kept him in a cell. She heated him until his Sebacean half started cooking. She cooled him until his Scaran half started shutting down. She did this for cycles. He survived because he learned to play dead. He killed Tauza eventually. He stabbed her in the eyes with the shattered shards of his own broken coolant rod. He walked out of the facility leaking blood and bile. He defected to the Peacekeepers because the Peacekeepers were the only people in the galaxy who would tell him the truth about what he was and how he had been made. He has hated the Scarans ever since. He has been preparing the Peacekeepers for war with the Scarans ever since. He needs wormhole technology not to conquer the uncharted territories, not to threaten Earth, not to play tyrant. He needs it to wipe the Scarans off the map before the Scarans get organized enough to wipe out every Sebacean and every Sebacean adjacent species in the galaxy, including, eventually, Crichtons. Scorpius is not the show's monster. Scorpius is the show's most carefully constructed villain. He is a survivor of the worst experiment ever conducted on a thinking creature, and his entire adult life is a controlled detonation aimed at the people who did it to him. Crichton watches the memory. The Crichton in the chip understands what he is being told. He still refuses to unlock the wormhole math for Scorpius. He picks the harder thing. He chooses to self-disperse rather than give the answer up. The chip Crichton dissolves. Most of the data evaporates with him. Some of it does not. Scorpius walks away from the console with a partial set of equations, not the whole map, enough to start the road. He has been honest. He has been mostly refused. He has been put back on track anyway. The episode also redefines what villain means on this show. Scorpius is not a man who became evil. Scorpius is a man who was made by the worst people in the galaxy into the only weapon he could become to kill them. The audience, watching this episode, has to recalibrate every conversation Scorpius has ever had with Crichton, every interrogation, every threat, every quiet moment with the cooling rod hissing in his neck. The villain is now also a witness. The show is not asking the audience to forgive him. The show is asking the audience to see him. That is a harder thing. Talon is being lured into a sun by a man named Muquillis, who traps Leviathans for rival shipbuilders. Talon starts dragging himself toward the star. Kreus loses his neural link. The ghost of one of Muquillis' earlier victims, a Sebacean woman named Sirjna, reaches Stark from inside the star. Stark, the Stykera, bonds with Talon briefly to pull him out. Stark pilots a battleship for one episode and is visibly horrified the whole time. A comedy drug episode. Crichton and Dargo separately get lost on a pleasure planet drowning in narcotic fumes and end up across town from each other in the middle of an exotic dancer murder mystery. The whole episode is told in flashback by both of them at the same time, contradicting each other, with Pilot listening on the comm and grading the credibility of each version. Pilot does not believe a single word either of them says. These are the two breath episodes the season takes before the train comes off the track. The first death of one of the John Crichtons begins here. Furlough, the dirty-handed mechanic from Season 1 who originally helped weld the module's wormhole prototype, is back on a planet called Dam Bada. She has been busy. She built a duplicate of Crichton's module and flew it through unstable wormholes 4 separate times, mapping the geometry on each pass. She has built up a research base. She is selling the work to the highest bidder, which now includes the Charids, a violent reptilian species in alliance with the Scaran Empire, who have set up a forward camp on the same planet to take her research. The Talon Crichton, Aeryn, Kreis, Rygel, and Stark land on Dam Bada. They are not alone. Jack Crichton, the version of Crichton's father that the Ancients had projected at him in Season 1, returns. He is not Crichton's actual father. He is the lead Ancient wearing his face. He has come because the Ancients have been monitoring the Crichtons through the wormhole network, and they need to know whether the human is going to use the wormhole knowledge as a weapon. Jack is here to verify and decide. He decides Crichton has not betrayed them. He stays to help. He unlocks the buried equations the Ancients had hidden behind the false Earth simulation back in Season 1. The full wormhole math comes online in Crichton's head all at once. Harvey, the Scorpius neural clone bedded into Crichton's cortex since the chip went in, panics. The clone has not been a passenger this whole time. The clone has been a custodian. With the math coming online, the clone tries to assert control. It tries to make Crichton kill Aeryn so that there is nobody left to lose, so that Crichton has no reason not to give Scorpius what he wants. Crichton fights Harvey inside his own head while his hands are around Aeryn's throat. He wins. He drives Harvey out. Harvey leaves screaming. The clone is gone. A Scaran dreadnought arrives over the planet. The Charids open fire. The team has hours. Jack and Crichton build a weapon. They take the wormhole math and turn it into an engine. The engine fires a focused, displaced wormhole at any target large enough to swallow. The mass on the other side is whatever the wormhole opens onto. Open the wormhole onto a sun, and the target gets a sun delivered to its face. They strap the engine into a duplicate module. Jack designed the weapon with no emergency shutdown. Once activated, the casing has to be closed by hand to contain the radiation. Furlough shoots Jack inside the lab and tries to drive off with the device. The Talon Crichton runs her down, fights her off, and closes the casing himself. He absorbs a fatal radiation dose doing it. There is no diagnosis in range. He is going to die. He flies anyway. He pilots the wormhole weapon up through the Dam Bada atmosphere into open space. The Scaran dreadnought is filling the sky. He drops into the wormhole. He aims it at a sun. He pulls the sun through. The dreadnought is gone. The Charid army is gone. He comes back. He lands the module. He cannot stand. He has lesions across his body and blood in his eyes. Aeryn carries him to the bed. He dies in her arms. He says he has done some good things in his life and he is proud. He says he is at peace. He tells her not to worry. He tells her not to call him by Crichton's full name. He is John. He has been her John for half a season. He smiles. He is gone. She climbs into the bed next to his body. She lies with him while he is still warm. The room is quiet. The Talon battleship is quiet. The shot holds on the bed for a long beat. The Talon Crichton, for half a season, was a husband. Aeryn, for half a season, was a wife. They had a small good life on a small angry battleship. They had been a family. He is dead. The other Crichton, the Moya Crichton, doesn't know any of this has happened. He doesn't know he died. He doesn't know he is a widower. The audience has just watched a version of the lead character die. Not a cousin, not a guest, not a doppelganger from another universe. A real, equally real, half of the show version of the lead. He had 36 episodes worth of memory. He kissed Aeryn. He fought Harvey out of his own head. He flew the wormhole weapon. He absorbed a fatal radiation dose by hand. He died in the bed. The show does not bring him back. The show does not retcon the death. The show does not say, the real one is over here. That other one was a fake all along. The show stays committed to the rule it set in episode 6. There are 2 Crichtons. One of them just died. The remaining one is the same man, without being the same man. When the surviving Crichton meets Aeryn again on Moya, the show is going to make the audience and the character both sit in that gap. There is no clever fix. There is no narrative trick. There is just a wife in mourning and a man who looks exactly like the husband she lost, and she cannot tell whether being near him is comfort or cruelty. This is the show's nerve. This is why people who watched Farscape in 2001 were still talking about it 20 years later. Quick break, because we're at the back half of one of the longest stories ever told on television. If you have made it this far through the show that killed half of its own lead and then made the audience sit at the bedside, do me a favor and hit subscribe. This channel is the one for the shows the algorithm forgot, the shows the networks gave up on, the shows that came back because the audience refused to. There is a Firefly recap waiting at the end of this one. There is a Babylon 5 next week. Back to Crichton. While the Talon Crichton is dying on Dambada, the Moya Crichton, on his side of the split, is unconscious. Dargo, in a fight, shoves Crichton into a stack of crates as Dargo's recovered Luxon attack ship simultaneously fires off a security pulse that fries most of Moya's systems and starts a countdown to a self-destruct that will take Moya with it. The Moya Crichton spends the episode inside his own head as a Looney Tunes cartoon. He is the Roadrunner. Dargo is Wile E. Coyote. There are anvils. There is a giant ACME crate. The cartoon is the show's way of letting Crichton process the rage he is carrying about his life without breaking the rest of the cast. The crew on Moya translates ancient Luxon inscriptions to disarm the ship. They work the puzzle in real time. They get there. The countdown stops. Crichton wakes up groggy and confused and with a coyote-themed headache. He doesn't know his other self has just died. Aeryn lands on a damp, gray world to grieve. Stark goes with her. He brings his Stykera abilities. He brings ghosts. She drinks for an episode. She hallucinates the Talon Crichton standing at the foot of her bed. She is offered visions of her father, the man she never knew. Stark's mask flickers in and out of contact with the dead. The mediums on this planet, who specialize in trafficking grief for currency, push her hard to surrender to the dark and stay with her dead lover forever. Chalax, her mother, may not actually be dead. The episode dangles it. Crais says he killed her. Stark sees something else in the spirit field. Aeryn refuses to die in the swamp. She refuses to lie down with the dead. She drags herself out of the room with the candles and walks back to the transport pod. She is not done. She is going home to face the other Crichton. The reunion episode. Aeryn, Crais, Rygel, and Stark return to Moya in a transport pod. The Moya Crichton is on the docking bay floor working on a relay panel. He looks up and sees her. They have been one person until episode 6 of this season. They are not one person anymore. They are 2 strangers who share most of a history and disagree on the most important parts of the rest of it. He has not lost what she lost. He has lost something else. He has lost being the John she chose. He has lost half a season of love that happened to a different version of him. They cannot meet on equal ground. He looks at her like he is meeting a widow. She looks at him like she is meeting a ghost of her husband. They cannot pretend nothing has happened. They also cannot make it stop happening. Meanwhile, the team takes in 4 escapees off a stolen marauder, a Skaran defector named Naj Gil, a Nabari named Hubero, a female Hynarian named Orn, and an unconscious Peacekeeper Tech. Orn is the plant. She works Rygel hard, sleeps with him to roam Moya undetected, and is broadcasting their position back to the Peacekeepers within the half-cycle. Crais, riding along on Moya now, watches the dynamic. He thinks about Talon. He thinks about his own past. He starts considering, for the first time, whether he wants to defect to this crew not as a fugitive, but as one of them. The team negotiates a sit-down with Scorpius. They use a Yench bracelet pair. The bracelets are a piece of mediation tech that shares physical pain across the 2 wearers in real time. If one of them takes a punch, both feel it. The bracelets enforce honesty. Dargo and Rygel sit across from Scorpius and Brasa at a small table in a roadside diner. Dargo and Brasa put on the first pair of bracelets to enforce a no-violence rule. Rygel laughs Scorpius into a second bracelet pair, so the team can leash him too. They negotiate. They agree, on paper, to cooperate against the Scaran Empire. Crichton will board Scorpius's command carrier as the senior researcher on the wormhole project. He will help the Peacekeepers build the tech. The plan, the actual plan Crichton has not told Scorpius, is sabotage from inside. He is going to walk into the carrier, get access to the entire wormhole research data, and burn it all. The bracelets do not detect lies. They only share pain. While the meeting is happening on the ground, Talon panics in his weakened state and fires on a passing medical ship. Roughly 600 people aboard the medical ship die in the volley. Crais and Aeryn talk Moya into letting them shut Talon down for repair. The deal with Scorpius stands, the biggest set piece the show has built to date. Moya docks inside the Peacekeeper command carrier on Scorpius's invitation. The whole crew comes aboard. Crichton, Aeryn, Dargo, Chiana, Jewel, Rygel, Crais. Even Pilot is awake on the comm. Crichton is officially a senior researcher on the wormhole project. Aeryn is officially classed as irreversibly contaminated, a category Peacekeeper command treats as a kind of social death. They walk through the corridors, and the soldiers part to let them pass and stare at them like exhibits. Scorpius gives Crichton a lab and a team and unlimited resources. Crichton starts the work. He starts trying to sabotage the data inside his own head and discovers he cannot. He has not figured out how to erase the math without flagging the corruption. He has not figured out how to feed Scorpius bad equations without Scorpius spotting the lie. The first plan fails. The second plan starts to fail too. Commandant Melion Greza, the rising political star of the Peacekeeper Command, arrives on the carrier. She is more dangerous than Scorpius in some ways. She is openly sexual with her enemies. She uses a hormonal compound called Hepal oil to coerce compliance. She sees Scorpius's wormhole project as a waste of resources and threatens to shut it down. If she shuts it down, Scorpius is finished, and so is the only adult inside the Peacekeepers who actually understands the Scaran threat. The team, in a corridor at 3 in the night cycle, decides Plan B is to destroy the entire command carrier with everyone aboard. The carrier holds tens of thousands of Peacekeepers. The carrier holds the entire wormhole research database. The carrier holds Scorpius, Greza, Baraka, every senior officer at the project. They are going to murder all of them. Crais volunteers Talon. Talon is the only weapon the team has that can do this. Talon is going to dock inside the carrier's launch bay and starburst from inside the hull. The blast will pour out of the carrier from the inside out. Nothing aboard survives. Talon agrees. Talon has been ready to die for a while. He says so to Crais. The crew has half an Aeryn to evacuate. Crichton, while the rest of the crew runs the evacuation, takes Scorpius for a final test flight. He flies Scorpius into a stable wormhole. Scorpius watches the equations come alive on the view screen and almost weeps. He has waited for this for cycles. He is inside it. He is finally inside the impossible thing. Aeryn smuggles Crais down through the carrier's docking corridors to Talon. Crais climbs aboard. Crais and Talon talk for the last time. He thanks Talon for flying with him. He tells Talon it was an honor. Talon closes the bay door. Crais detonates the starburst. Talon dies. Crais dies. The carrier dies. The wormhole research dies with it. Tens of thousands of Peacekeepers die in a single white flash. The team on Moya watches from a safe distance, and Pilot does not have a word for what they are looking at. Crichton, in his module on the way back to Moya, passes a small dock where one figure stands alone. Scorpius. Scorpius did not get on the last escape transport. Scorpius watches Crichton's module pass. He raises his hand. He says goodbye. He stays. He has nothing left again, and he will not run. Crichton wears a face on the way back that nobody can quite read. The audience cannot read it either. He has just helped murder a small city full of soldiers, and he is not sure what he is. This is the cost ledger of Season 3 closing out. Jean, dead. The Talon Crichton, dead. Tens of thousands of Peacekeepers, including Crais and Talon, dead. The 2 Crichton arc ended. The show has paid for every choice with bodies. The arc ledger is balanced, and the family is in the red. The season finale. The crew breaks up. The team flies Talon's recovered remains to a Leviathan burial ground out in deep space, a place where Leviathans go to die quietly. A second rogue Leviathan, an old one who has lost 3 of her own offspring to Peacekeeper killings, attacks Moya for being half Peacekeeper, for carrying a part Peacekeeper child in Talon for having survived. Dargo's Lola fires a single shot snap that envelops the rogue Leviathan and disintegrates her completely. There is nothing left of her at all. The funeral for Talon is held in clear space. Through the episode, Crichton is having a sustained vision of marrying Aeryn on Earth. He is wearing a tuxedo. She is in a white dress. His brother is at the altar. There is a band and a sky and a beach. The wedding gets shot up by peacekeepers in his vision. Aeryn dies in his arms in the dream, twice, 3 times, 4 times, in different cuts. He cannot stop the dream from killing her. The dream is a warning. The dream is grief. Aeryn is alive. Aeryn is packing. She comes to him in the cargo bay with a small bag over her shoulder. She is going. She is going for real this time. He is the wrong John. The right John is buried back on Dambada, his ashes scattered in Talon's wake. She cannot live on Moya with a man who looks like him and sounds like him and is not him. She cannot do it. She loved a husband. The husband is dead. This is not the same man. He asks her not to go. She goes. The rest of the family follows. Dargo leaves to find Macton, the man who murdered his wife. Chiana leaves to find the Nabari resistance and the cell that took Neri. Rygel leaves to plot a return to Hyneria and his stolen throne. Jewel leaves to find her people. Stark left earlier in the cycle, broken by Jean's death and the Talon Crichton's death piling up. Even Pilot prepares for whatever comes next. Crichton sits in his module on Moya's docking ring and watches the transport pods go out one by one. Each one carries a person he has spent 3 cycles fighting for and beside. Crichton sits in his module on Moya's docking ring, alone. He listens to the hum of the engines through the hull. He looks at the empty docking bay. He has not eaten in a cycle. He is shaking. A wormhole opens in front of Moya without warning. The throat is huge. Moya cannot maneuver. She gets sucked into it. A new old woman, a wrinkled gray-haired alien named Naranti, who has been hiding aboard since the carrier evacuation, survives at Crichton's side. She places her hand on the side of his head and tells him telepathically what nobody else has told him. Aeryn is pregnant. Aeryn does not know yet. The father might be the Talon Crichton, the dead one, the one who was a husband. The father might be the Moya Crichton, the surviving one. This one. There is no way to know which Crichton is the father, because biologically, there is no difference between the Crichtons. The child will not care. The child is his. The child is hers. The child is theirs. Crichton sits in his module, alone, out of fuel, watching Moya disappear into the wormhole without him. Watches Aeryn's prowler, a black dot getting smaller, vanish into the dark in the opposite direction. He has lost everyone he loves in a single afternoon. He has just been told he is going to be a father. He cannot move toward either piece of news. End of Season 3. The most ambitious season of television the show ever made signs off, with the lead character alone in a tin can in the middle of empty space, knocked unconscious by the universe's punchline. If you stop here, the show would still be the best dramatic season of any space opera in the decade. The cast scattered, the ship gone, the lead pregnant and missing, the villain humbled. The show, by any normal storytelling logic, was over already. Season 4 was about to undo half of that and then break the rest of it on purpose. 3 months have passed since Moya was sucked into the wormhole. Crichton has a beard. He is filthy. He is wearing Peacekeeper issue fatigues and a worn-out leather jacket. He has been living alone on a dying Leviathan called Elak and her unnamed female pilot. Both are old. They have come to the Leviathan burial ground to die in peace, and they are nearly there. For company, Crichton has a single DRD he has named 1812. He has taught the DRD to play the 1812 overture as a metronome whenever he is working. The DRD beeps the cannons. He is covering the walls of a maintenance bay with wormhole equations. He is filling them in faster than he can keep them legible. He is also having lengthy conversations with a hallucination of a pregnant Aeryn sitting on a beach in his head. He is talking back to her. He is going slowly mad, in the slow way that men go mad when they have run out of people. Then, mid-equation, a marauder crash lands in his hangar bay. A redhead climbs out and walks up the wall. Up. Vertical. Her feet adhere to surfaces by some bioelectric trick. Her name is Sikozu Svala Shanti Sugaisi Shanu. She is Kalish, a species the Skarans subjugated long ago, although she does not advertise the second part. She speaks pilot. She is fast. She is rude. She is being chased by Tubre hunters called the Grudex. The Grudex board Elak to harvest pilots' regenerating arms for the recreational drug Tubre. They have already attacked other Leviathans like this. They are inside the corridors. They are going to kill Pilot to take pieces of her. And Crichton fights them off in a series of running battles through Elak's interior. He uses his module's pulse rifle. He uses 1812. He uses Sikozu, who is angry but useful. He kills the Grudex. In the middle of the fight, a transport pod docks. Out of it come Chiana and Rygel. They are halfway dead from a year of being hunted across the uncharted territories. There are wanted beacons posted for the Moya crew on every planet. 5 million currency pledges for Chiana's head. 7 million for Crichton's. Whoever set the bounty is patient and well-funded. The team is scattered. Aeryn is gone, somewhere in Peacekeeper space. Dargo is on a planet Crichton does not know yet. Jewel is on the same planet, also somewhere Dargo does not currently know. Naranti, the old woman from Crichton's lap during the carrier escape, will turn up next episode. Stark is still broken. Crace is dead. The Talon Crichton is dead. Jean is dead. Crichton has the wormhole math. He has the whole thing. He has been working it through alone in a dying ship for 90 days. Ilak the Leviathan, who was on her way to die, chooses to take Crichton off the burial ground and out to the planet where she has heard, on the pilot communication network, that his friends are. She will die for him. She tells pilot Crichton she is at peace. She gathers her last energy reserves and starbursts. This is the start of Season 4. Tone has shifted again. Season 4 is darker than Season 3. There is more humor and more nihilism, both at the same time, on the same line. The reunion arc opens. Ilak carries Crichton to the planet Arnesk. Arnesk is an ancient temple world. Jewel and Dargo have been living on it for months as members of an Interian archaeological dig led by an Interian academic named Instructor Vela. They have been excavating a temple complex called the Darnaz Triangle that, when reactivated, will revive the planet's long-buried Eidolon priesthood. The team reunites. Crichton, Chiana, Rygel, Sikozu, plus a wrinkled gray-haired alien Crichton has been calling the old woman from the bed and breakfast, who finally introduces herself as Utu Noranti Pralatong. She is a Trascan apothecary with 7 different psychoactive powders in her pockets and a habit of drugging Crichton without warning. She also tells him plainly that he has a purpose. She has been waiting her own life for the right moment to deliver someone like him to a moment like this. Grayza arrives with a full Peacekeeper squad and runs the dig down. She has new biology now. Implanted glands behind her collarbones secrete Heppel oil, a pheromonal compound that makes the men around her sexually compliant within minutes. Crichton is exposed to it, taken aboard her command shuttle, and put on her bed. Crichton uses one of Naranti's powders, a drug called Laka that lets the user forget their troubles for a stretch, to take the chemistry of the moment off his mind. He then triggers his own conditioned neural defenses. He rolls Grayza under him on her own bed. He climbs off the table. He walks out of her room with his clothes mostly on. He has just survived assault by perfume. Ilak, the dying Leviathan, chooses to die for the team one final time. She crashes herself into the Peacekeeper marauders pursuing the dig site. The marauders are obliterated. Ilak the Leviathan ends. 1812. The DRD survives somehow. The team escapes on Dargo's recovered Luxon attack ship Lola. Jewel stays behind on Arnesk. The Eidolon priests have been revived by the Darnaz reactivation. They need someone who speaks Interion to teach them what the modern galaxy is. Jewel stays. The cast loses Jewel. The cast gains Sikozu and Naranti. Scorpius, meanwhile, in a parallel storyline, has been captured by Peacekeeper Command for the destruction of his own command carrier in Season 3. Bracha, his protege, is now ordered to walk Scorpius around on a chain leash for political theater. Scorpius is publicly beaten and humiliated for 2 episodes. Sikozu, watching from the sidelines, starts seeing him as something other than a defeated war criminal. She sees a man with a plan, a man who is collecting information, a man who is going to be back in command before the end of the cycle. By the end of the arc, Zu has chosen which side she is on. She is on Scorpius's side. The team does not know yet. A treasure trap planet covered in lava. Rygel triggers a booby trap and gets stranded over a magma flow. Tarkin gangsters complicate the rescue. Naranti dances mostly naked at one point as a tactical distraction. The team escapes with their lives and very little else. A breath episode in a season that is about to stop letting them breathe. Aeryn returns. She arrives on Moya, half-conscious, sick with heat delirium. She has been on the run for cycles. The reason she is sick is because she was poisoned by a creature called Ulam, whose people sent her to assassinate a planetary leader called the Prime Lukithian. She killed the Prime. Ulam is now hunting her down for it. She also is not telling Crichton she is pregnant. She is not telling him she does not know which Crichton is the father, or that biologically there is no test that can tell them, or that for over a cycle she has been holding the fetus in stasis the way Sabatian women can in extreme stress. Scorpius arrives on Moya during all this. Scorpius, who is now living on the ship as an uneasy ally, drags Crichton into the medical bay with Sikozu's help and removes the Harvey neural clone from Crichton's head. The voice in Crichton's skull that has been narrating his madness for 2 seasons is gone. Crichton is alone in his own brain for the first time since Scorpius put it there. Aeryn lives. The cast is whole again, more or less. Sikozu, Naranti, Aeryn, Chiana, Dargo, Rygel, Pilot, Crichton, Scorpius. The family is together, awkwardly, for the first time in nearly a year. Then the season takes a long breath. 5 episodes follow where Moya keeps losing arguments to small problems. The crew is back together, but the family is fragile. Aeryn is keeping a secret. Crichton is hallucinating. The galaxy keeps interrupting them with bottle problems while the real story builds underneath. Moya gets entangled with a sentient metal-dissolving space plant that has wrapped itself around her hull and started ingesting her skin. The crew has to physically remove it, by hand, in vacuum suits. In a parallel plot, the crew holds an election for permanent ship captain. Dargo wins on 4 votes and replaces Rygel's temporary captaincy. Crichton is trapped inside a virtual reality video game built out of his own memories. The game is haunted. The antagonist of the game, the Black Knight figure who keeps trying to kill him on every level, is Stark. Stark, the Bannock priest who survived being dispersed at the end of Season 2, has been holding a piece of his consciousness inside this game ever since. Crichton wakes up. Stark is back as a recurring guest from this point forward. No longer fully a member of the family, but no longer fully gone. Bounty hunters board Moya. They carry Tarkin shrinking devices. They miniaturize the entire crew except Crichton, who escaped the initial sweep. Crichton spends the episode at 6 inches tall, working with a tiny Dargo and a tiny Aeryn, fighting bounty hunters by climbing inside their boots. Aeryn, full size for the back half of the episode, punches a man through a wall. A planetary murder mystery on a small backwater. 2 governments are about to sign a peace treaty. Someone is killing the candidates one by one. The team gradually figures out that an off-world handler named ALS is using parasitic mind control insects to puppet hosts into pulling triggers. Aeryn is the one being puppeted without knowing it. The current prefect is the one who hired ALS. He wants Gasha, the man about to replace him, dead before he takes office. Crichton himself gets infected late in the episode and is forced to point his weapon at Aeryn. They figure it out before either of them shoots. The prefect goes down. The Bejad and the Umayans sign the treaty without him. A comedy episode. The crew eats poisoned mollusks at a roadside stop. The poison binds pairs of eaters together so they share each other's physical sensations in real time. Pain, pleasure, heat, cold. Whatever one feels, the other feels at the same instant. Rygel and Aeryn are paired. Dargo and Naranti are paired. Sikozu and Crichton are paired. The episode is the cast trying to function while every sensation gets duplicated to the wrong body. They eat the antidote clam to break the bond. They never speak of it again. These 5 bottle episodes are the season exhaling. The next one is the season holding its breath. The ancient called Einstein, the lead ancient who wore Jack Crichton's face during the fake Earth simulation in Season 1, return. Einstein pulls Crichton out of a wormhole into a white dimension classroom outside of time. He sits Crichton down. He starts teaching him how wormholes actually work. Time, history, parallel realities. The fundamental rule that any wormhole can theoretically connect to any past, future, or alternate of any reality. The fundamental rule that any unrealized reality, once observed, becomes a real one. Crichton is shown alternate versions of himself dying in different ways. Crichton on a Scarran torture rack. Crichton on Earth. Crichton bonded to Aeryn. Crichton alone forever. Crichton dead. Crichton is shown a possible Earth where the Scarrans got there first and conquered it. He meets that Earth's version of his own father. Both of them are human-Scarran hybrid. Jack wears a restraining cuff and tells him obedience is a fair trade for longer life. Einstein tells Crichton that wormholes can be weaponized, that the ancients designed them this way, and that Crichton is the only being currently alive in this part of the galaxy who has the capacity to wield them. Einstein offers Crichton the master equation. The cost is responsibility. The cost is never using them unless the moment is unambiguous. Crichton accepts. The training locks into his subconscious. Einstein warns him the knowledge is a target painted on his back from this moment forward, and that the time may come when it has to be removed. Crichton wakes up in his module. He has the full wormhole math now. He can travel anywhere. He can fold any star out of any throat. He can kill galaxies, theoretically. He flies back to Moya and tells nobody. Crichton accidentally takes Moya through a wormhole back to Earth. Wrong year. Halloween 1985. Months before the Challenger disaster. He has been gone, by Earth time, less than 2 years. He is overlapping with his teenage self. His father Jack was supposed to skip the next shuttle to be at his teenage son's bedside after a fire put the boy in a 2-day coma. In the original timeline, Jack pulled him out of the fire and stayed home. In this timeline, the wormhole's arrival has shifted history by a hair, and the fire is no longer happening. With Jack scheduled to fly that week, Jack dies first. The family collapses. Crichton never matriculates at IASA. The Farscape project never happens. The warehouse never falls. No wormhole ever opens. This Crichton is never born. The team uses Halloween to blend in. They wear costumes that match what they already are. Aeryn sits on a couch and watches Sesame Street and stares at Kermit reciting the alphabet in genuine confusion. Rygel discovers Halloween candy and eats 9 pounds of it. A Florida sheriff comes to the door investigating the strangers, gets dosed by Noranti's herbs, and ends up driven away in the back of his own patrol car by Dargo. Chiana, who is currently nymphomaniacal, sleeps with the teenage Crichton in the back of his dad's 4-wheel drive, which is a thing the show then has to live with. The team uses one of Noranti's drugs to put young Crichton into a survivable coma, so Jack will skip the launch and stay home with him, recreating the original family arc. The plan works barely. Young Crichton lives. The history is restored. Crichton finds a wormhole and goes through it. The next wormhole drops the team out at Earth in 2003. Real Earth. Real present. Moya parks in low orbit. The world looks up and sees an alien spaceship. The US government quarantines Moya. The crew lives at the Crichton family house in Florida for a few weeks. They do interviews. They take walks. Aeryn meets Crichton's sister Olivia. Dargo plays catch with Bobby Coleman, the nephew. Rygel watches sports. Crichton fights with IASA over what country owns the technology in his module. His father, Jack, gives a speech in front of a press pool declaring Farscape an international project with research shared across all human nations. Crichton kisses Aeryn at his father's house, and they have a private moment in the upstairs hallway. And then they have Christmas dinner together at the Crichton table, and the camera pulls back, and we are watching what John Crichton's life would have been like if a wormhole had never opened over Cape Canaveral. A Scaran assassin named Scree, sent by Grayza on contract, materializes invisibly in the Crichton living room and tries to kill John. Aeryn fights it. Dargo, in Lola, lifts off from the front lawn and lances the assassin through the dining room window. Crichton tells his father, in the kitchen, that he cannot stay. The Peacekeepers will keep coming. The Scarans will keep coming. Earth, by hosting him, will become the next planet on their target list. He kisses his sister goodbye. He hugs his father. Jack tells him he is not coming back. Crichton tells him he is. Jack accepts the promise. They both know. Crichton walks back into his module on the lawn. He goes home to Moya. The Earth episodes do something the show had been quietly preparing the audience to receive for 4 cycles. They show what it would actually look like if Crichton went home. They show how much of him is no longer Earth. The man who walks into the kitchen in Florida is not the one his father raised. He is a man with a Scorpius clone in his head and a bomb in his pocket and an alien wife in the next room. Earth is not where home is for him anymore. The wormhole that brought him here is the door he was always going to walk back through. A stowaway alien shapeshifter sneaks aboard Moya, disguised as a hooker. The crew rescues from a passing trader vessel. Once aboard, she feeds. She drains the crew's strongest emotional traits one by one. Aeryn loses her resolve and goes still. Dargo loses his anger and goes peaceful. Crichton loses his hope and starts giving up mid-conversation. Chiana, who has been nymphomaniacal since her Nabari conditioning broke, gets her sex drive stolen and is the first to notice that something is wrong. The team identifies the shapeshifter and kills her. The traits come back. Everyone is themselves again. Chiana keeps her sex drive. Dargo, Crichton, and Rygel travel to a planet to learn that Macton has been located. Macton is the man Dargo has blamed for the death of his wife Lolan for 9 cycles. Macton is also Lolan's brother and a peacekeeper officer. He is the reason Dargo went to prison for a murder he did not commit. He is the reason Dargo lost his son Jothi. He is the reason Dargo was on Moya at all. To reach Macton, Dargo enrolls at a mental discipline training camp run by a master named Katoya. The camp uses a form of mindscape meditation through neural task chairs. Dargo trains for the full episode, building the focus he needs to confront Macton from the inside out. When Dargo finally enters the mindscape with Macton, the truth lands differently than he expected. Lolan came at Macton with a knife. Macton, on reflex, turned it and put it into her. He has been carrying the secret of his sister's death death for 9 cycles, and he beat the body post-mortem to make it look like a Luxan rage killing so Dargo would take the fall, and Lolan's name would stay clean in Peacekeeper records. Dargo does not kill him. Dargo leaves Macton trapped in the mindscape. The thing Dargo has been chasing for 9 cycles is over without bloodshed. He walks out. He has nothing left on his to-do list. He doesn't know what to do with the rest of his life. Aeryn, Sikozu, Chiana, and Noranti go to a black market commerce station to buy parts. Greza is there. Greza is on the station to hold a secret meeting with the Scaran War Minister Akna. Greza is offering the Luxan worlds to the Scaran Empire in exchange for a side peace deal that will let Greza personally consolidate control of the Peacekeeper command. The deal is unsanctioned. The deal is a coup. Akna double-crosses Greza in the meeting room and arrests her. Akna spots Aeryn through a window. Akna identifies her. Akna takes Aeryn instead. The 4-woman team escapes with 3. Aeryn is gone. A few cycles later, and Aeryn turns up at a roadside docking station ahead of the team. She comes back to Moya. She tries to lure Crichton in close. She wants to know about his work. She is asking the wrong questions in a slightly wrong tone of voice. Crichton notices that she cannot say the word baby. She is a Scaran-built bioloid replica, a sophisticated organic robot programmed to extract information. Crichton shoots her in the face. The real Aeryn is now a Scaran prisoner on the secret Scaran base called Katratzi. She is pregnant. She has been pregnant for over a cycle because her Sebacean physiology can hold a fetus in stasis under extreme stress. The Scarans do not know yet who the father is. The Scarans are about to find out. When they find out, her interrogation upgrades from captured Peacekeeper traitor to Crichton bait. Crichton spends an entire episode on Moya watching a TV documentary. The documentary aired on Earth shortly after the team left. Earth's pundits, in the wake of the Crichton family hosting 9 aliens for Christmas, have decided the Moya crew are not friendly visitors. They are dangerous. They have weapons. They might be a vanguard. The whole Earth news cycle has been about whether to fortify against them. Bobby Coleman, John's nephew, the kid who threw a football with Dargo, edited together hundreds of hours of home footage from the visit. Crichton sits in his quarters watching it for the entire episode. He watches Chiana joke with his sister. He watches Dargo eat at his father's table. He watches Rygel try peanut butter. He watches Aeryn answer a child's question about whether Sebaceans and humans could have a baby together. Aeryn pauses on screen. She hesitates. She says yes. The episode is a 40-minute meditation on what the family looks like to outsiders. Inside the documentary, Crichton catches a single word in a fragment of footage in the background. Katratzi. He has heard the word before, in a flash from the alternate reality lesson Einstein gave him in episode 11. He knows where Aeryn is. Stark, the Stykira priest, lived on Katratzi as a death rite escort years ago. Stark knows the layout. Stark has the location. Crichton goes to Scorpius's cell on Moya. Crichton makes the deal. He offers Scorpius full wormhole knowledge in exchange for help rescuing Aeryn from the Scaran capital base. Scorpius says yes. They cut their fingers. They shake on it. Aeryn is in a Scaran cell on Katratzi. The cell is tropical hot. Sebacean biology cannot tolerate heat past a certain threshold without entering the living delirium. The Scaran captain Jenek is using a heat probe to interrogate her, ratcheting up the cell temperature on a slow gradient. She has been hiding her pregnancy. A Sebacean nurse working for the Scarans scans her and figures it out anyway. The Scarans then plant a fellow prisoner in her cell, a woman named Morak, who poses as a longtime captive of the breeding program and tries to coax a confession out of her. Aeryn lies. She tells Jenek the father was a terminally ill Sebacean soldier named Lekna from a planet called Vendral, dead before the baby was even confirmed. She is hoping a dead nobody is less interesting than a wormhole asset. She is hoping it buys her a stay of execution. For the first time in her life, in the cell when no one is listening, Aeryn prays. She prays to a Sebacean folk goddess named Jankazbru. She has not prayed in her life. She does not know if she believes. She prays for the baby. She prays for Crichton. She prays for the life she has not yet had. Jenek considers. He doesn't fully buy it. The baby is still leverage either way. He keeps her alive. Aeryn ends the episode by snapping Morak's neck the moment she realizes the cellmate is a plant. Meanwhile, Crichton and Scorpius take Crichton's module through a wormhole into an alternate reality Moya, the same kind of unrealized reality flicker Einstein showed Crichton in episode 11. They find the alternate reality Stark in that universe and they recruit his Katratzi map. Then they come back. The Stark in their own universe gets the same map secondhand. The team has a target. The season's main set piece begins with the Aeryn rescue on on a Scaran border station freighter, not on Katratzi itself. The team infiltrates the station as a Peacekeeper Scaran spy crew. Noranti reactivates Rygel's dormant dermophilica disease to force a quarantine lockdown across the freighter. The team poses as healers. They extract a drugged, pregnant Aeryn from Captain Jennick's interrogation cell and walk her out under cover of the quarantine. Scorpius stays behind to be captured by the Scarans for what comes next. The Scorpius rescue at Katratzi, the Scaran capital. The team uses Stark's stolen Katratzi map. They arrive on Lola. Crichton walks in alone for a fake peace conference. Sikozu poses as a Kalish escort. Aeryn is on the strike team. Free, no longer the captive. Crichton straps a thermonuclear device to his own chest. He walks into Emperor Stalik's throne room with the trigger in his hand. He tells Stalik calmly that if he does not get what he came for, he will detonate the bomb on the spot. Kill the Emperor, kill the war ministers, kill himself, kill the throne room, and trigger an automatic chain reaction that will wipe the Katratzi command structure. Stalik looks at the bomb. Stalik looks at Crichton. Stalik listens. Stalik prefers a live Crichton he can capture later to a dead Emperor. Then Scorpius reveals the real reason he wanted to come. The Scaran imperial power, the reason Scarans are intelligent at all, is a flower, Crysterium utilia. It grows in a sacred cavern at the bottom of Katratzi. The Scarans eat the flower as a daily ritual to maintain higher cognitive function. Without it, over the course of 500 years, the Scaran race devolves into the stupid Scaran they were before. Large reptiles with poor reasoning skills. Scorpius wants to kill the mother plant. The whole empire is a slow-walking head injury patient if the mother plant is destroyed. Scorpius has been planning this for cycles. The team, in the elevator descending into the cavern, is overrun by Scaran guards. Sikozu in the cavern reveals her own secret. She is a Kalish bioweapon. The Kalish, when subjugated by the Scarans, were given access to a small breeding pool of bioengineered super soldiers, of which Sikozu is one. She can emit a focused radiation from her body that targets Scaran heat organ biology and kills only Scarans. She kills 4 of them in the cavern with her hands raised. Crichton drops the nuclear device down the central elevator shaft into the cavern. It detonates. The mother flower dies. The cavern collapses. The Scaran intelligence supply has just been put on a 500-year clock. The team rides the elevator up through solid rock as the cavern walls shake. They escape via Lola and Moya. Tens of thousands of Scarans die in the blast. Above, in orbit, Braca on Graza's command carrier picks his moment. Braca mutinies. Braca arrests Graza for incompetence and takes formal command of the Peacekeeper flagship in her name. Braca welcomes Scorpius back aboard. Formally restored to command of his wormhole project, Scorpius is back on top. Sikozu, who has been pretending to be on the Moya crew for 10 episodes, walks across the deck of the command carrier and kisses Scorpius openly. She is now Scorpius's lover. She was always going to end up with him. The team has lost a friend they did not know they had until they didn't. The cast watches her go. Nobody chases her. Nobody fights her. Nobody fires. Sikozu has chosen the man and the side she chose. The cast respects the choice and walks back to the elevator. This is what Season 4 does with its allegiances. People move. The team does not stop them. The team carries the loss instead. After it is all over, Crichton sits with Aeryn alone on Moya. He tells her he is not okay with what he just did. He killed thousands of people in a single afternoon. He lit a sacred flower garden on fire with a nuclear bomb. He is crying. He tells her he could get used to this. He is afraid of who he is becoming. He is afraid that he was always going to become this man, and that the wormhole only revealed it. Aeryn holds his hand. She does not tell him it is fine. She tells him she is here. This is one of the quiet moments the show insists on. The action ends. The body count gets reported. The lead sits at a table and lets himself feel the size of what he just did. Most genre television, by 2003, had already learned to skip these moments. Most genre television wanted the next set piece. Farscape always took the seat next to its lead at the table afterward, and made the audience sit there too, until the lead was ready to stand up. Episode after episode, season after season, the show refused to let the audience off the hook of consequence. This is also why the show was hard to watch. This is also why the people who watched it never forgot it. The series finale that turned out not to be the series finale. The Scarens, having lost the Crystarium and survived a near coup at home, decide they have one path left. The Crystarium also grows on Earth in trace concentrations. They have always known. The Scarens now redirect their entire war machine toward the Earthbound wormhole network. The Scaran command vessel Striker is dispatched into a wormhole heading for Earth. If the Scarens reach Earth, Earth ends. Crichton's only option is to seal the Earthbound wormhole network forever. He knows how. He has the math. The math requires precision pilot-grade perception to thread the needle. He needs Pilot. Pilot voluntarily disconnects from Moya, so Crichton can run the equations through Pilot's perceptual systems. Without her Pilot, Moya is dying inside of an ARN. Stark, the Stykera, stands at Pilot's station and uses his consciousness to keep Moya stabilized. Chiana volunteers her own neural sense to assist and goes temporarily blind doing it. Crichton, Aeryn, and Pilot pile into a transport pod and head for the wormhole. The pod pierces the bubble at the precise calculated instant. The bubble forms. The bubble starts collapsing the wormhole network from inside. The pod turns. They outrun the chain reaction back to the entrance. The Striker, going the other direction, runs straight into the collapsing wormhole and is shredded. The Scaran fleet behind it loses the coordinates forever. Earth is sealed off. The wormhole network around Earth is offline. The transport pod, on the wrong side of his own door now, lands briefly on the surface of Earth's moon. Crichton calls his father from the radio. He says goodbye. He tells him to keep Earth safe. He says he is sorry. Then they fly back to Moya. Moya, recovering, settles into a sea on a peaceful blue-green planet called Kujaga. The Eidolons of Kujaga, descendants of the priest's jewel found on Arnesk, live there in low population. The team rides a rowboat out into the bay to fish and rest. In the boat, Aeryn tells Crichton she went to a black market sebation surgeon on the carrier and had the fetus tested. The sebation stasis on the baby has been released. The fetus is now developing normally. The DNA test confirms the father. The baby is his. This, Crichton, the Moya Crichton, not the dead one. Crichton in the rowboat stands up. He nearly capsizes the boat. He shouts to the rest of the crew on Moya in orbit and across the bay on a separate boat that they are having a baby. Then he drops to one knee in the boat. He asks Aeryn to marry him. He pulls his mother's engagement ring out of his pocket, the one he has carried for 4 cycles in his vest, the one he has been waiting for the right minute to use. She says yes. He puts the ring on her finger. They kiss in the middle of the boat under the Kujagan sun. A flying alien ship of Kujagan Eidolons swings into view overhead. They have been monitoring off-worlder activity in the bay. The pilot scans the boat from altitude. He requests orders from the local council via comm. The council replies, "Neutralize invaders for analysis." The pilot of the alien ship complies. He fires a single Eidolon weapon at the rowboat. John Crichton and Aeryn Sun are crystallized in their final kiss, both of them frozen mid-embrace into 100,000 small, clear pebbles. Their bodies shatter. The pieces fall into the boat and into the water. The engagement ring lands on top of the pile of crystal fragments. The diamond catches the light. Dargo and Chiana, on Moya in orbit, watch through the viewport. Dargo opens his mouth and screams. There is no sound mix on the scream. The audio cuts out. The viewer hears Dargo silently scream into space. End of Season 4. This is one of the most savage cliffhangers in the history of episodic television. The lead character has just proposed to his pregnant fiancée. They have just survived an alien war. They have just, for the first time in 4 cycles, had a moment of actual unguarded happiness. The first thing the show does with that happiness on screen is shatter both of them into a heap of clear pebbles. There is no last word. There is no goodbye. There is no farewell to the cast. The audience does not even get a black screen. The audience gets Dargo screaming silently into a vacuum because the script has stripped the audio out. 2 days later, the network announced cancellation. The show was canceled by the Sci-Fi Channel 2 days before this episode aired. The cancellation was sudden and political, and unrelated to ratings. There was no Season 5. There would be one more story. A campaign began the day the cancellation was announced. Fan letters, petition signatures by the truckload, a coordinated email campaign that crashed servers, billboards, newspaper ads paid for by individuals out of pocket. A small, genuine grassroots movement of people who refused to accept that John and Aeryn died, crystallized in a rowboat. The Sci-Fi Channel, 18 months later, agreed to fund a 4-hour wrap-up. The wrap-up is called Peacekeeper Wars. It is the only finale in television history that exists because the audience demanded one. This is what they got. the miniseries the fans paid for. After the cancellation, the show's audience launched a write-in campaign so loud and so sustained that the Sci-Fi Channel agreed to fund a 4-hour wrap-up. This is the wrap-up. It exists because viewers refused to let the cliffhanger stand. 2 months have passed since the boat in the bay. Rygel has been freediving in the Kujagan Sea swallowing crystal fragments. He has been swallowing them deliberately. He is the only Hynarian in Rain. His digestive system can isolate the fragments without destroying them, and the team has been pulling crystal pieces out of him for cycles. They are, in literal fact, sieving the bodies of John Crichton and Aeryn Sun out of a frog-like alien's stomach. The local aliens, the Kujagan Eidolons, have agreed to help. They feel guilty. The crystallization shot was an accident. Stark and Chiana, while the team was still gathering fragments, went off-world to find a diagnosin willing to do the surgery. They came back with a diagnosin and the corrupt clinic runner Grunchalk in tow. The diagnosin, working with a tank of regenerative gel, is going to physically reconstitute the bodies out of the recovered fragments. The reconstitution works. The pieces lock together. Tissue regrows. Crichton and Aeryn open their eyes inside the same kiss, in the same posture they were in on the boat, mouths still touching. 60 days have passed for them in less than an instant. The audience finally exhales. This is the unique gift of Peacekeeper Wars to the people who watch the show in real time. The audience waited 18 months between bad timing and the miniseries. The audience watched a frozen rowboat haunt their imaginations for a year and a half. When the kiss resumes, the kiss is the audience's reward for refusing to let go. The campaign worked. The kiss happens. Aeryn is no longer pregnant. The fetus, when she crystallized, was held in her body. When the diagnosin went looking for it during reconstitution, the fetus was not in either of their bodies. It was in Rygel. Rygel ate part of the crystal cluster that contained the fetus, along with the rest. The diagnosin found him still in stasis, inside Rygel's gut, organic and alive. Rygel is now temporarily pregnant with John and Aeryn Sun. Rygel is going to carry the baby until the team can swap him back into Aeryn at a safe moment. Rygel is not happy. While the rowboat survivors are being unshattered, the galaxy is on fire. Scorpius and Sikozu, on Scorpius's command carrier, have launched a preemptive peacekeeper strike on the massing Scaran fleet near the contested border. Braca, the longtime Scorpius lieutenant, is again at Scorpius's side on the bridge. The peacekeeper, Grand Chancellor Merrick, is furious. The strike was unauthorized. The Scaran Empire formally declares war on the peacekeepers within hours of the attack. The war Scorpius spent his life trying to prevent has started, in part because he himself fired the first shot. The cast learns 3 things at once. The Eidolons of Kujaga are the direct genetic and cultural descendants of the priests Jewel helped revive on Arnesk. They are far weaker than their ancestors. They cannot negotiate peace at the scale the war now requires. But the original revived Eidolons of Arnesk, who came back when the Darnaz Triangle reactivated, can. Their leader, a hierarch named Yondalau, possesses the natural ability to project a peace aura large enough to subdue an entire warring faction in real time. He can stand in a throne room and make 2 armies stop fighting. The team also learns the deeper history. The Peacekeepers themselves were originally created by the ancient Eidolons over 27,000 cycles ago. The Eidolons needed muscle to enforce their peacekeeping treaties on lower species. They took a primitive humanoid race and accelerated it. They evolved that race upward, slowly, over generations, into the modern Sebacean species. Aeryn's people were always a tool. The galaxy's hatred of the Peacekeepers is the hatred of a hammer that turned on the carpenter and started using itself for new purposes. Aeryn, hearing this, sits with it. She is the descendant of a species that was created to serve. Her entire culture is a slow drift away from the original mission. The hatred is partly earned. The hatred is also partly tragic. Crichton proposes to Aeryn again on the beach. Aeryn accepts again. They start preparing for an actual ceremony, this time without crystal weaponry pointed at them. Before the wedding can happen, the team has to go to Arnesk to recruit the Eidolon hierarch Yondalau directly. They leave Kujaga and head for the Temple World. The Scaran Decimator, the personal warship of Emperor Stalik, follows them to Arnesk to capture Crichton. Stalik has been hunting him since Katratzi. The team gets Yondalau onto Moya and clears the temple. Jewel refuses to leave. Minutes after they pull out, a Scaran missile from the Decimator destroys the Arnesk temple complex, with Jewel inside. The same Jewel who has been on the show since season 3. She is killed in a temple by a Scaran missile, with no on-screen goodbye, no last line. The show is establishing again, at the start of the finale, that this is not a story where everyone makes it home. Stark, the Bonic Stykera, will end up carrying what Yondalau is about to put on him. The Decimator catches Moya in open space and forces a docking. Crichton, Aeryn, Sikozu, Rygel, Rygel, Stark, Scorpius, Yondalau. They are all hauled aboard by Stalik personally and marched into the throne room of the Decimator. Pilot stays on Moya. Dargo and Chiana, on Lola when the Decimator boarded, are presumed dead in the wreckage of their ship. Yondalau does what he came to do. He starts negotiating. He projects his peace aura into the room. Stalik, the most calcified, hate-filled war emperor in the galaxy, starts to soften. Stalik begins, audibly, to consider that maybe this war does not have to be fought. He says aloud that he is open to a treaty if Crichton is at the table. Then Scarran War Minister Akna draws her sidearm and kills Yondalau with one shot to the chest before the negotiation finishes. Yondalau crumples. The aura collapses. Stalik shakes off the suggestion. The Scarran command tightens. Crichton, kneeling at Yondalau's body, makes a decision in 3 seconds. The peace power must not die in this room. Stark is the only Stakira in the room. Stark can absorb a soul. Crichton orders Stark to do it. Stark protests. Stark is already half broken from absorbing Jean and from carrying his own fragmented life. Crichton orders him again. Stark drops to the body. He absorbs Yondalau's gift in real time. The peace power, the entire spiritual apparatus of a 1,000-year dead religion, transfers into a man who is barely holding himself together. Stark stands up afterward. Stark is glowing. Stark is also breaking open. He starts laughing. He starts weeping. He starts speaking 3 languages at once. The Scarrans then gas the cell to interrogate the prisoners while still alive but pliable. The cell fills. The team coughs. Aeryn drops to one knee. Dargo and Chiana, both presumed dead earlier in the part, are nowhere in the cell. The Crichton on the floor is not sure his wife will see the next Arn. He has lost Yondalau. He has lost the only path to peace. He has used up his last leverage on a peace power transfer to a Stikera, who is sobbing in a corner. The first half of the 4-hour finale ends here, with the family separated, the war declared, the Eidolon dead, and the cell filling with gas. The second half is the family pulling itself out. Sikozu, in the gas cell, raises her hand and emits a focused Kalish flame. She ignites the gas. The cell wall blows outward. The team gets up out of the smoke. Dargo and Chiana are not in the cell. Dargo and Chiana, when the Decimator forced docking, were on Lola running interference. Lola was destroyed in the early skirmish. They were both presumed dead. They are not dead. A Luxan warship in the area, captained by a tall, handsome Luxan officer, who turns out to be Dargo's son, Yothi, scooped them out of vacuum at the last second. Jothi, the same boy Dargo lost in Season 3, is now a grown captain of his own crew. Jothi has been searching for his father for cycles. Jothi has finally found him, in a war zone, in pieces. Jothi blasts a hatch into the side of the Decimator and pulls the rest of the team aboard the Luxan ship. Reunion. Father and son embrace on the deck of the Luxan vessel. Dargo kisses Chiana. The Crichtons hug Jothi. Rygel, in the chaos, is forcibly birthed of his temporary baby. Crichton himself runs the transfer kit, pulling the fetus out of Rygel's stomach and back into Aeryn's body during the firefight. Aeryn is pregnant again, now in real time, and the fetus is now in normal sebation development. The clock on the pregnancy is moving fast. In the middle of the firefight, on a planet courtyard with Scarrans closing in, Crichton and Aeryn finally get married. Stark officiates with the gift of Yondalau still rattling inside him. The ceremony happens in a fountain, because there is nowhere else with cover. Rygel coughs up Crichton's mother's ring. Crichton puts it on Aeryn's finger, with bullets cracking past their heads. They kiss. Aeryn goes into labor and delivers the baby right there in the fountain. A boy, alive, breathing, bloody, half sebation, half human. The team escapes the planet and dives into a friendly wormhole. But the escape costs them. On the way out, Scarran ground forces close on the team. Dargo turns back. He cuts the corridor to give the rest of them time to reach Moya. He fights on his own. He is wounded early. He fights anyway. A Scarran charges Chiana with a huge spear. Dargo shoves Chiana out of the way and takes the spear through his own chest. Crichton has to pull a screaming Chiana off the deck. The team makes it to a wall and jumps for Moya's docking web. Moya catches them out of the air and starbursts. Over comms, on the way out, they hear Dargo making his last stand, dying on his feet, smiling at the Scarran who killed him, saying, "I'm your daddy." He goes down. Ka Dargo, Luxan warrior, the man who picked up Crichton by the throat in the docking bay of Moya in episode 1 and then never quite let him go, is dead. The team is short one again. The team is not going to be the same team it was when it walked onto Kujaga. Aeryn, after they make orbit, kneels next to Akna in a corridor. Akna has cornered them earlier in the same firefight. Akna had grabbed Crichton, told him, "At least you die," and reached for a kill shot. Aeryn had put one round into Akna's chest. Aeryn had said, while Akna fell, "It's a boy," in case you were wondering. The Scarran war minister who started the war by killing Yondalau is dead by Aeryn's hand in a back hallway during a rescue, not in any throne room, and not in any treaty signing. The death lands quietly. The audience is not given a victory beat. The show keeps moving. Meanwhile, in Peacekeeper space, Grayza has poisoned the Grand Chancellor Merrick and assumed personal command of the entire Peacekeeper fleet. She is racing to confront Stalik directly. She wants to be the Peacekeeper who ends the war on her own terms. Not Scorpius's, not the Chancellor's. She is moving fleets toward the Eidolon system. Crichton, on Moya, knows he has run out of options. The math in his head is the only weapon big enough to make either fleet hesitate. The math is locked behind the moral key Einstein gave him. He has not unlocked it. He goes back to Einstein. Einstein appears one more time. The White Dimension classroom. Crichton tells him the situation. The Scarrans will glass the Eidolon planet. The Peacekeepers will respond. Both fleets are converging. There will be tens of millions of dead inside an ARN. Crichton needs the wormhole weapon now. Einstein unlocks it. Einstein warns him the knowledge may have to be removed once this is over, that no one is supposed to carry the full equation around indefinitely. Crichton accepts. He comes back to Moya carrying the entire weapon in his head. He spends the next 48 hours staggering around Moya, barely conscious, hallucinating. Harvey, his Scorpius neural clone, appears wearing a yellow hard hat at a construction site labeled Harvey and John's Construction Company. Harvey is, somehow, helping. Harvey is the one stopping Crichton from accidentally igniting the equation while pacing his quarters. Harvey is also gleefully whispering reasons to use it. Aeryn, pregnant, tracks him down in the cargo bay and pleads with him to pull back. Crichton tells her his knowledge is the only thing big enough to protect her and their baby. He is angry and crying and not lying. Aeryn tells him she protects him too. She tells him being his protector is also her job. She kisses him. She walks him back from the edge of the equation. The Eidolons of Kujaga, the small remnant population on the planet of the rowboat, are still there. Stark, carrying Yondalau's gift, but on the verge of breaking, returns to them. He finds a single Kujagan Eidolon woman named Muoma. He places his hands on her. He passes the peace power into her. Muoma takes it. Muoma will teach the others over time. Stark stands up emptied. He is himself again for the first time in cycles. The Peacekeeper Armada under Grayza and the Scarran Armada under Stalik both arrive in Kujagan orbit at the same instant. Tens of thousands of ships, two of the largest fleets the galaxy has ever assembled, in the same volume of space at the same moment. The combat orders are being given. Crichton, in his module, takes the field. He does not target any ship. He does not aim at any planet. He flies between the two fleets with the equation live in his hand. He opens an actual wormhole in the empty space between them. What blooms out of the wormhole is not a star. It is a black hole. A controlled, expanding, gravitationally annihilating black hole the size of a small moon, growing on a clock, hungry for everything in range. The math behind it is the math Einstein finally unlocked. The math is the wormhole weapon. The black hole grows. It starts pulling at the nearest Peacekeeper carriers and Scarran Decimator support craft. It is big enough to take both fleets and the planet underneath them inside an ARN if Crichton does nothing. The fleets see what he can do. The fleets see what is going to happen if they do not stop. They understand instantly that this man with this weapon could end the war by ending both of them, and is willing to. This is the moment 4 cycles of show have been pointing at. Crichton, the human astronaut who got lost on a slingshot maneuver, now holds the largest weapon in known space. He is alone in his small module with a black hole growing in front of him. He is one switch away from killing both fleets and the planet they are arguing over. The Crichton in episode 1 was 30 years old, untested, in love with theory. The Crichton in this scene is the same man under a different sky, with a wedding ring on his finger, with a wife in labor on a Leviathan, with a son being born within the next Arn. He uses the weapon once. He uses it as a demonstration. When the fleets agree, he closes the wormhole and shuts the black hole back down before it eats Kujaga. The galaxy survives because he is the man he became, not the man he started as. While the fleets are still processing, the Eidolons step forward. Muoma and the Kujagan priesthood project the peace aura into both flagships at once. Stalik, on the Decimator, feels it first. Grayza, on the Peacekeeper command carrier, feels it second. The aura saturates both rooms. Stalik and Grayza meet face to face under flag of truce and sign a treaty. Both their hands shake while they sign. Both of them, looking at each other across the table, know they are doing something they did not, before this moment, know how to do. The Eidolons, in the room with them, are unblinking. The galaxy goes silent on every channel for 16 seconds. The treaty holds for now. The war stops moving forward. Stark, before the fleets even arrived, had carried what was left of Yondelau's gift back to the Kujagan Eidolon Moya. He passed the peace power into her in the temple. He stood up emptied. The transfer is what made the treaty signing possible. The Eidolons will spread the peace through the galaxy at the pace of generations, not Arns. The Peacekeepers, the species the Eidolons originally created as enforcers, and that drifted into brutal mercenary work over 27 millennia, will be guided back slowly to their original purpose. They will become peacekeepers, in fact, not just in name. Back on Moya, the team gathers in the medical bay. Aeryn rests, the baby in her arms. Pilot watches over comm. The baby is small. The baby is perfect. The baby has Crichton's eyes and Aeryn's chin and one Sebacean inner eyelid. He is the first hybrid Sebacean human child the galaxy has ever produced. He is breathing. Crichton holds him. Aeryn looks at Crichton. Together they name him Dargo's son Crichton, after the friend who is not in the room. The team gathers around the bed. Pilot, glowing in his alcove, alive and home. Moya, healed. Chiana, in mourning clothes, holding the baby Dargo never met. Jothi, who lost his father 2 Arns ago and is going to carry the body home to Luxan space. Rygel, in a chair, complaining and beloved. Stark, emptied of Yondelau's gift, finally himself again, smiling for the first time in 4 cycles. He says goodbye to Crichton in a quiet corner. He removes his mask. He hands it to Crichton. He tells Crichton they will meet again. Sikozu, who has chosen Scorpius and is paying for it, on the bridge of a separate ship a few orbits away. Scorpius, who got his wormhole weapon and watched Crichton choose not to use it on him, accepting that the universe has been kinder to him than he was to it. Naranti, the old woman who said Crichton had a purpose. The baby. Aeryn, in the medbay bed, looks at Crichton with the baby in his arms. She tells him she always loved him. She tells him she always knew where the end of all of this was. She tells him this is the end, the good kind, the one where most of the family makes it home. Crichton tells her that from the moment he laid eyes on her, he could never see the end. He says he is glad about that. The empty chair where Dargo would be sitting is in the room with them. The camera pulls back. The Eidolons stand on the deck of the Decimator and watch peace ripple outward through the galaxy at the speed of an idea, fast enough to outrun the Scaran fleet's old habits. Slow enough that the work of holding it will take generations and generations. The team eats together at one table on Moya. The chair where Dargo would have sat stays empty. Nobody fills it. That is the end of Farscape. There is no goodbye montage. There is no spin-off. There is no sequel. The last image is a baby in his father's arms, the baby's mother in the bed beside them, the family around them, and the empty chair at the end of the row. For 4 cycles of television and a 4-hour movie that the audience paid for in full, that is what Farscape was always actually about. A man who got lost on a routine science flight and was never the same. A woman who did not speak the language of feeling until she met him and learned it from him in pieces. A scientist who spent the first 30 years of his life trying to be his father's son, and the next 4 years of his life trying to be his own person, and the 4 hours of his life after that becoming a husband and a father. A crew of escapees from a prison ship who became a family through nobody's plan, including their own. A villain who became a friend without ever stopping being a villain. A small old Hynerian Dominar carrying a baby in his stomach because nobody else could. A Luxan father who lost a son, got him back, and then died saving his other family on a courtyard floor. A Nabari thief who learned how to choose the people who get to leave with her. A Stykera priest who carried the souls of the dead and finally was allowed to put them down. A wormhole that opened in low Earth orbit and flung a man across the universe to find out he had a son waiting at the end of it. Other space operas, when they wrap, hand the audience a moral. A clean lesson. The hero learned something. The villain was vanquished. The galaxy is at peace. Roll the music over a star field. Farscape does not do that. Farscape gives the audience a baby. The baby is not a metaphor. The baby is the actual answer to every question the show was asking from episode 1. What was the prison ship? It was a place where the family started. What was the Aurora chair? It was the price of admission. What was the wormhole? It was the long way home. What was Crichton? He was a man who needed to become a husband. What was Aeryn? She was a soldier who needed to become a mother. What was the show? It was the time it took to get the 2 of them into the same room with the same child between them. Everything else was the long way there. The Aurora chair, the neural clone, the twinning device, the crystallization in the bay, the wormhole math. the Mother Flower, the Eidolon Priesthood, the Scarran Empress, the Peacekeeper Command Carrier, the Torch in the Snow, the Trip to Earth in 1985, the Trip to Earth in 2003, the Three Stooges in the Wormhole, the Frozen Lake, the Locket, the Russian Puzzle Ring on a Chain, the Cartoon Coyote, the Space Whale, the Diagnosin, the Hammer of Crystal Pebbles in a small wooden boat in a bay on a planet that just wanted some peace. All of it gets the baby into Crichton's arms. That is what Farscape was. A show about how long the long way home is, and what you find when you get there. There has not been another show like it since. There may never be another show like it. Battlestar Galactica got close on tone. The Expanse got close on craft. Babylon 5 got close on serialization. Doctor Who got close on the willingness to break its own rules. None of them put all of it together at the same time on the same ship around the same 6 people. Farscape did it for 88 episodes plus a 4-hour goodbye on a Sci-Fi Channel budget, with puppets the show refused to be embarrassed about, with a lead actor in a leather jacket talking to a hand puppet of a deposed amphibian Dominar, like the conversation was the most important thing in the room. The conversation was the most important thing in the room. That is the secret. The show was always about the people in the cargo bay. The wormholes were furniture. 88 episodes is a lot of cargo bay. 88 episodes is a lot of arguments at the dinner table. A lot of badly translated jokes, a lot of someone walking past the camera carrying a cup of tea while someone else is dying in the next room. Farscape made all of those moments matter. Every dinner, every drink, every quiet conversation in a corridor. The big set pieces only landed because the quiet ones were earned first. When Crichton names the baby after a dead friend in the medical bay at the end of Peacekeeper Wars, the moment lands not because of the set design or the music. It lands because the audience has been in that medical bay for 88 episodes. The audience knows the people standing around the bed. The audience knows the empty space where one of them is no longer standing. The audience knows what the room cost. That is the entire show in a single shot. Worth the wormhole. Worth telling someone about today, if you have not already. And subscribe, because this channel is the one that finishes the shows the networks abandon. So the next one lands in your feed instead of the algorithm's graveyard. If you want the next show with that exact heartbeat, the recap on screen now is another canceled space opera. A different found family, a different ship, a different captain in a long brown coat, a different audience that paid to bring it back. Watch this next video on the screen.